Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the Double Your Sales in 12 Months Masterclass. While we're waiting for a few stragglers to show up, I want to assure you that we're going to have a productive time together today. Um, it's This is going to be time well spent. I want to make sure that I let you know that I'm not a professional speaker or presenter. So this is not something I've given this presentation 4,000 times. So bear with me if you can overlook some ums and some uhs and that kind of stuff. This could be the most important 90 minutes or so that you have spent for your business this year, maybe ever. Um, we are going to really get into the nuts and bolts of exactly what you need to do to double your sales, not only with the formula, the double your sales formula, but also with exactly how to apply that. Now, of course, doing this for many types of businesses. This is not niched towards one specific business. So there are going to be some things that may or may not apply to your business or your industry. But most of it will, by the way. But there may be a few niche things that don't apply to your business or industry. And then there's going to be some things that, um, pardon me, there's going to be some things that you're going to have to translate into your business or industry. So the way we apply what we're learning today to the retail business is going to be different than the way you apply it to a contracting company or other service business, which will be different than the way we apply it to a professional practice of some sort. But the point is that you absolutely will get everything you need on this masterclass. In this masterclass, you'll get everything that you need to double your sales in the next 12 months. That's my promise to you. Now, I should mention that this is for people who currently have a business already. When I say a business, I have constructed this for bricks and mortar businesses. So that is a business that is either shipping real products or that is working in a city or a town or a locale, et cetera, et cetera. That said, everything here can apply to any kind of business, but this presentation is specifically for people who are running bricks and mortar businesses of some sort. I also want to say that this is not really for people who are in the um, multi-level marketing or network marketing business. Whatever company you're associated with most likely has a training program for you, and you should probably work on that training program instead of going outside looking for different training programs. Nothing wrong with network marketing. It's a good business to get in some cases. It's not particularly for me, but it can be a very good business to get in. However, that said, this presentation is really not aimed at network marketing. Um, if you have a business idea or you have a very small business that's pre-revenue, this can still be a very powerful presentation. But there are going to have to be ways that you apply the information differently than a business that's currently operating. So a business that's doing hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars a year in revenue already, they're going to be able to do things in this presentation that you're not going to be able to do unless you're extraordinarily well funded. So if you have $1 million in the bank, or $500,000 in the bank, or $5 million in the bank, and you're funding and opening your business, then you can use a lot of these. You can use a lot of these strategies. But if you're just starting out and you are not funded in that way, then you are going to have to apply the information in this presentation a little differently than a company that is already currently operating, which makes sense, right? Even a company who's doing 3 or 4 or 5 million a year gross revenue is going to apply the information differently than a company who's doing $200,000 a year. My point is that across the spectrum, with a little bit of translation, you're going to be able to apply what we're going to learn today to make substantial, significant, tremendous leaps in your revenue very, very quickly. Um, what I'm going to be presenting to you today is based on math. So it'll work in any city or town. It'll work in any industry. It'll work in any state. It would work on Jupiter if there was a business on Jupiter. So it's math I don't want you to feel like, oh, that's fine for somebody in New York City, but that won't work in Kalamazoo, Michigan. No, it will. Just a second, I'm gonna turn on the fan. I keep a fan next to me whenever I'm working or anything because I kind of run hot. So anyway, it will work. Small town, big city, anywhere in between, this process will work. So get a pen and paper. Get ready to take some notes because, like I said, this is going to be a learning experience. This is not going to be something that we do. I mean, this is not going to be something that is just entertainment. We're going to get to work today, and we're going to really lay the foundation for you transforming your business. So, on today's agenda. My goal today is to give you a clear, meaningful plan to double your sales in the next 12 months. I'm going to share the exact formula I use in my businesses and have used for my clients for over 2 decades. The formula is battle tested. The process is battle tested, meaning it's not something I put together by reading a bunch of books. I've actually used this formula myself in real businesses in multiple different industries and gotten some outrageously good results based on that. Uh, One of the first things, so we're going to go through a few things first. We're going to talk about what stops people from doubling their sales. And one of the biggest things is the belief as to whether it's possible or not. So I want to make sure that you have an underlying belief that it is possible to exponentially grow your sales. Exponentially meaning very quickly as opposed to linearly, which is still up and to the right, but still very slow. What I'm going to share with you is reliable, replicable, and it works fast. When we're done, you'll know exactly what to do today, tomorrow, the next day, etc., to set yourself on the path of doubling your sales. To get the most from our time here today, I have a few suggestions. First, as I mentioned a moment ago, take notes. Note taking will be the difference between you remembering 10% of what we discuss and forgetting 90%, and you remembering 90% of what we discuss and forgetting 10%. As I've said, this is not entertainment, it's work. So treat it like work. Okay. I know nobody likes to go to school, etc., but that's what this is. This is school for your business. The next thing is silence your phone. It's nothing that will destroy your attention, that will distract you, that will cause you to miss something. We're going to be moving very fast. We have a lot to cover, so we're going to be moving very fast today. And there's nothing that will distract you more than, Jim texting you to tell you about some drama at work today or whatever. If there really is an emergency, an honest to goodness emergency, people can get in touch with you. Take 90 minutes or so, maybe a couple hours, focus on what we're doing, and let's get to work. This time is going to help you create a tremendous future for yourself. So, do the right thing by yourself, for your family, for your business. Turn the phones off, turn the TV off, etc. Focus. Prepare your questions. We're gonna have a little area at the end where we do some Q&A. And so write down your questions. I want to hear from you. I want to answer your questions. I want to clarify this stuff for you. That's the point of the presentation today, is to arm you with the ability to double your sales in the next 12 months. So feel free to ask your questions. All I ask is that you write them down and make note of them. And then at the end, you can ask your questions. And it's fine if you ask multiple questions, that's no problem. But make a point of writing your questions down, and then we can answer them at the end of the presentation. Put yourself in a distraction-free zone. Just like the phone I talked about a second ago or the TV, make sure that you don't have a bunch of distractions around you. Now, I say that coming from you from my second home in Lake City, Florida, and my phone is supposed to be turned off and it's not for some reason. So let me fix that. I apologize. Um, Bear with me just 1 second so I can get this phone turned off. Okay, it is turned off. So why did it go? I don't know. Anyway, so None of us are perfect, including me. That said, put yourself in a distraction-free zone. Have the kids go in the other room, turn off the TV. We don't want a bunch of yelling, a bunch of background noise. We don't want your spouse asking you what you want for dinner. Put all that stuff on the side burner for a couple hours. It's not going to hurt anything. Nobody's going to get hurt. It's not going to be any danger. And you will, when you come out of this in a couple hours, have a plan to radically change your life for the better. So now let's get started. Um, I think first I should tell you why you should even listen to me. That's a fair question. My name is Everett Farnell. For 30 years, I have been in the trenches of entrepreneurial activity. I started my first business in my early 20s. By the way, that business didn't go anywhere. It just did zero. But that's life, right? Over the last 20 years, a little bit more than 20 years, I have owned multiple businesses and currently own multiple businesses and consult for other businesses to help them drive sales. I told you I own multiple businesses. I own a small private equity fund. It's a very small fund. We're not talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't raise capital. These are businesses that I own and operate, some in the home services business, some in publishing, some in marketing and direct mail. And of course, I work in consulting. Right now, we're currently in negotiation to launch a business in the financial newsletter industry. So that's very exciting. So for 20 years, I've been doing this for my own businesses and for my clients' businesses, more clients than I can even count right now. My first successful business. Now, I told you the first business I owned was we did nothing. My first successful business was actually came about during a rather tough time for me, uh, both personally and financially. And I had a friend who owned a business in the animal remediation world. So what he would do is when animals would get into a house, he was the contractor who would come in and clean up after the animals. Um, it was a very, very niche business, and he had grown it to a respectable size. Um, Respectable meaning that it made a good living for him, right? So this is 25 years ago, and he was making about $70,000 a year, and he was doing that with very little. He was not working 60 hours a week, um, to say the least. So he was making a decent income, not a get rich income, but 25 years ago, $70,000 a year was a pretty decent income, especially when you weren't working 12 hours a day. You were working a very part-time schedule. But he knew that I was looking for something, and he knew my affinity for sales and sales at the time, but also for marketing, but in particular for sales at the time. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. And he brought me aboard. I'll tell you the results of that. I'll tell you a little more in depth the results of that in a second. But basically, over a 10-month period, we went from doing $70,000 a year to about $750,000 over those 10 months. So that was massive, massive leverage. And yeah, so that was my first experience with the double your sales formula. And obviously, we more than 12 times the 12 I mean, in 10 months, $750,000 is $75,000 a month. We didn't do that in month one. We did 750 over the course of the 10 months, but on average, over that course of the 10 months, it was $75,000 a month in business, from $70,000 a year. So that's more than 12 times the business in a very short period of time. There was a lot of opportunity. There were a lot of unique things in that time frame that allowed us to do that. But my point is that doubling your sales is not only realistic, it is absolutely possible. Now, before we really jump into things, I just want to tell you that I have a personal belief that business owners, small business owners like you, are the atlases of the world. So if you're familiar with Greek mythology, you know that there is a image of Atlas holding the world on his shoulders. That's us for the economic area of the world, for the economics, the economy of the world is supported by small business owners. In the aggregate, we are the most powerful economic force ever experienced. Forget about the huge companies, the multinationals. Yes, they're important. Yes, they play a role. And yes, they have enough concentrated capital in order to affect public policy. But on a day-to-day level, the world would collapse if all of us went home for a week. The entire economies of the entire world would absolutely fall apart if we went home for a week. So we have an opportunity and, in my view, a responsibility. But more importantly, we've taken that responsibility onto ourselves. Whether you realize it or not, you are not just running a butcher, baker, candlestick maker business. You are a pillar of the economy in your community and around the world. And I think we should be rewarded for that by uh, we should be rewarded through our own effort. And I think we're important, far more important than most of the world realizes. And like I said, in the aggregate, we are the mightiest financial force, economic force the world has ever seen. So congratulations to you. You should be loved and adored far more by your community and your employees and your family than you probably are. But that said, I want you to know that I do, as hokey and as silly as it may sound, I do love and adore you, and I want to see you all of the success in the world. Um, so, first question, is it even possible to double your sales? Uh, yes, it is absolutely possible. That said, the more you're doing right now in sales, the harder it is to double it because you have a bigger area to cover, right? So if you're doing $500,000, you want to go to a million, that's a $500,000 a year sales growth. If you're doing a million and you want to go to two, you have to jump $1 million. If you're doing five, you want to go to 10, you got to jump $5 million. The good news is that the more you're doing in sales and presumably profitably doing in sales right now, it gives you tools and access to opportunities that people who are doing less. So it's easier to add $500,000 than it is to add $5 million. But the guy who's doing $5 million right now has access to tools that allow him to do it. So it's not 10 times harder to do it. In some ways it's easier, but the real is realistically adding $5 million is going to be a little bit more challenging, but you'll have access to tools that most people don't have access to at the lower income levels, at the lower revenue levels. So yes, it is absolutely possible no matter where you're at. Once you start getting over about $5 million a year in sales, I will tell you that, and I'm assuming that that's probably not where we're at. It takes a lot of work. And I do work with some companies. I do work with some companies in that area, in that revenue range. However, it does take a lot more work to get them to double their sales. Once you're doing six, seven, eight, $10 million a year, that's a big goal. That's a lot of work. But at that point, if you go from 10 to 18 in one year, it's still massive sales growth, even if you're not doubling it. But if you're down at the lower end, like I said, under a million a year in sales, it's not only is it completely possible, it is it's actually relatively easy. Now, the first experience I had, you see, I was probably like you. When I think about doubling the sale, when I think about sales increases, most people are thinking about sales increases of 10, 20%, 5%, et cetera. That's the kind of stuff that we hear when we're talking to, when we're watching business news or that kind of stuff. You're hearing about 5, 6, 7, 3, 10% jump in sales. And that's a 10% jump in sales is regarded as a massive sales jump. And indeed, for a company like Apple or, GM or something, that is a huge sales jump. But they're working with billions of dollars a year in sales that they're starting with. The first exposure I had to the concept of doubling your sales was in a seminar with a business mentor of mine. I won't tell you his name because I haven't asked him if it's okay for me to use his name in this presentation. And he's semi-retired at this point, but he started off and did, I don't know, 30 or $40,000 a year his first year, and then grew it substantially. And the next year is at $25,000 a month or whatever. And the next year doubled that, and the next year doubled that. And he kept doubling that until he got right around $10 million a year. At that point, he was fine with his sales. He didn't want to expand his sales because he would have to do things that he didn't want to do. So he stayed at that level for a few years, and maybe it was 8 million, 8, 10 million, somewhere in that area. He stayed at that level for a few years, and then he had banked enough money where he semi-retired. So now he does still do a little bit of work, but but it's not the same level of work that he was doing before. He got to a point where he was financially able, with investments and savings and this kind of stuff. He was financially able to scale back his operations about 90% and live exactly how he wanted to live, which, if you reach that goal, who can argue with you doing that? That's what he wanted to do, and that's what he did. But he did that by doubling his sales every year, and he did it very, very quickly. That was where the seed was planted, was in a conversation with him. Now, I'll tell you what happened there is it got me looking, right? Because one of the things, if you don't believe you can do so, if you don't believe something's possible, you won't work to try and do it. It's like the 5 minute mile or the 3 minute mile or something. There's an old story in the success business that that nobody thought that the 3 minute mile was possible, or the 5 minute mile, or whatever it was, until one guy did it, and then as soon as he did it, then a bunch of other people did it within the, say, 12 months afterwards, or 24 months afterwards, or whatever. The point being is that once people realized it was possible, then the mental barrier to doing it dissolved, and they were able to do it. That's what this discussion with this guru, with this business mentor of mine, did. Was it took me to a place. Let me adjust my camera here a little bit. It took me to a place where I went from thinking 5 or 10 or 15% sales growth was great to it's possible to double your sales. And that was the seed planted in this whole deal that led me to develop the double your sales formula. A lot of reason why people don't double their sales is because they just don't believe that they can. They think too small. They sabotage themselves without realizing it. So maybe they're doing the right things, but then they screw up. They don't follow through on some stuff. They don't build the business. They don't build the business and the systems that will allow them to double their sales. So they end up self-sabotaging. They're thinking too small. They're thinking about 10%, 15% growth, etc. So the keys to doubling your sales are: number one, mindset. Number two, your numbers. You've got to know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, that's the first step. All right. So make a note. If you don't know your numbers, then you have got, and you'll know exactly what numbers to know by the end of the presentation. But if you can't answer the question about where your numbers are at, then you don't have anything to plug into the formula. So you got to know your numbers. Then you got to plan. You got to make a strategy, and then you got to execute. Right. So when you follow the five step formula, you know your numbers. You get your mind right. You know your numbers. You make a plan and you execute. Those aren't the 5 steps. You'll learn the 5 steps in just a moment. And you execute on that plan. Not only is, in accordance with the 5 step formula I'm going to teach you, not only is it possible to double your sales, it's actually pretty natural to double your sales. I told you that conversation was the first seed of the idea of doubling your sales. At the time, I was a salesperson. Now, I wanted to be a business person, but I was a salesperson, sitting across the kitchen table or on the phone, closing a deal for all kinds of products or services over the years. I was selling to homeowners. Other times I'd sell to business owners. Sometimes I was just selling to, you know, Joe and Mary Spadats, just normal people out on the street or whoever. Because that was where I came from, I suffered from the same fallacy that most business owners suffer from, and that I thought the way to double your sales was to get more pitches, get more presentations, talk to more people. So as I started moving into an entrepreneurial role, That's where I thought that everything was. That's where I thought, and that's why my first business failed miserably. I just thought if I go out and talk to more people, go out and talk to more people, go out and talk to more people, that I'll double my sales. There is some truth to that at the very, very, very beginning of a business, but it quickly maxes out. And after that, you need to take a more strategic view in order to reach those exponential growths, and those exponential growth numbers. So yeah, I was just thinking, do more presentations, talk to more people, close more sales. And that led to burnout. It led to me overworking. It led to the collapse of my first business. Now, at the point between that collapse of the business and me telling you about the animal remediation company I got involved with, there was a point where I was watching a business speaker. Now, I had read tons of books. I had gone through programs. I had listened to speakers. I had all kinds of information had been jammed into my head. Or rather, I should say, I had jammed all kinds of information into my head over the years prior to joining that business. But one of those, at one point, I was watching a business speaker and he was talking about increasing sales. And he said, there's only three ways to increase sales for a company. And as soon as he said it, I mean, within seconds after he said it, it clicked into my head. He's wrong. There's not three ways, there's five ways. He was leaving out two things, or more specifically, he was chunking up four things into two things. And it occurred to me, wait a second, that's, you know, that what he's doing is true to a point, but it's not as helpful as it should be. In those seconds after hearing him say that, that was the first place that the double your sales formula jumped into my head. That was the first iteration of it. It has evolved over time, but that was the first iteration of it. Um, I realized that getting more prospects was not the way to build a strong, profitable business that would allow you to live your life on your terms. You can't reach your financial and sales goals just by getting more leads. Now, if you're brand new, if you're pre-revenue, sure, you want to go out and just get as many, get as many sales as you can. But if you're already any kind of mature business, you've been in business for a year or 2 years or more, and you're still focusing like most of your people in small businesses, most entrepreneurs, most of your competition, most of your friends, most of the people you know in business, if you're still focusing on just getting more leads, getting more leads, getting more leads, getting more leads, it's not going to work. The system is going to break down. That is a linear way of looking at sales growth. It's not an exponential way of looking at sales growth. So applying this first iteration of the formula, that's how we went from $70,000 a year to $750,000 in sales in a 10-month period. We averaged, like I said, $75,000 a month in sales, which was more over that 10-month period. We averaged $75,000 a month in sales, which was more than the previous year's yearly sales. Our monthly sales became greater than the yearly sales. That's the kind of power that you can harness when you do this the right way. Okay. So getting more leads, that leads to the doing trap. So there's two things here. Number one, getting more leads, getting more leads, getting more leads. And number two, many, many, many business owners, hopefully you're not in this situation, but if you are, then listen closely. Many business owners are consumed with the doing of their business. They're consumed with the making of the widget, the providing of the service. They're far too concerned with the doing of their business to work on growing their sales and expanding their business and making it more profitable. The real job of the business owner is to, well, I mean, ultimately, the real job of the business owner is to organize resources, financial resources, material resources, and human capital or labor resources into a profitable machine. But the most important thing out of that you can do is focus on marketing of your product or service, not doing of your product and service. So I had a client one time tell me, I can't do this. I can't, I, you know, I'm working 20 hours a day. I can't do all this extra work. And I said, okay, look, if you can work 19 hours a day and devote 1 hour to marketing. Now, first, he wasn't working 20 hours a day. He probably worked some days 20 hours, but his metaphorically, he was consumed all day, every day with the doing of the stuff that he was delivering to clients. So what I said to him is if you can start off with working in the business for 19 hours a day, doing the stuff, and take one dedicated hour, one real dedicated hour, preferably at the beginning of the day while you're fresh, and devote that to marketing, we can turn your business and we can create a business that will make you a multimillionaire. The point is to start off with that hour. And then as that starts bearing fruits, then you hire some more people, you put some more systems in place, you manage your current customers more effectively, which then allows you to turn that 1 hour into 2 hours, into 3 hours, into 4 hours. And what happens is your 19 hours go to 17 hours and then 15 hours. Notice I'm doing 2 hour reductions instead of 1 hour reductions. And then eventually it gets down to the point where you're doing an hour or two in the doing of the business, and you're doing 3 or 4 hours a day in the marketing of the business, and you have systems in place and a team and et cetera. And you can do that because you're generating enough revenue in order to do that. So that's even if you are consumed all day, every day with doing your business, if you can take a little bit of time and devote it towards the W your sales formula, you will be able to create a business that will turn you into a multimillionaire at exit, maybe before exit, but certainly at exit. Um, Most business owners are caught in the same trap I was caught in. Just go out and get more leads, go out and get more leads, go out and get more leads. That's linear. Again, you have to start thinking exponentially. I'm going to show you how to start thinking exponentially in this presentation. Once you get done with it, your brain will be rewired to look at your business substantially different. Here's the really cool part. When you do this the right way, not only do you not have to double your work, not only do you not have to work harder, oftentimes you'll work less hard. At one point, this is another contracting company that I own. It's a different one from the animal remediation company. I was in the roofing business. And when I bought into that company, it was doing about $200,000 a year. Uh, so what's that? $200,000 a year is what? $16,000 a month, $4,000 a week in sales, approximately. When I got out of that company, 26 months later, it was about $37,000 a week in business. So we almost 10 times the business over the course of that 26 months. So, and I worked about 4 hours a day, 4 to 5 hours a day doing that business. And it never got in the way of me living my life, taking care of my children, spending time with them, spending time with my wife, et cetera. It never got in the way of me doing any of that. My point being is that, by the way, I've never been on a roof to actually do it. I've been on roofs to walk around. I've never actually driven a nail, put in any underlayment on, put any shingles on. That was not my area of expertise. That's not what I brought to the table in that business. That's what my business partner brought to the table in that business. So I did all of that, working a few hours a day in the office and only occasionally visiting a job site, only occasionally meeting the clients. We built a team that insulated me from all of the day-to-day of the business, and I managed. So I hope that makes sense for you. My point being is that this is ultimately absolutely possible to do without working yourself into burnout and without losing the ability to spend time with your family and see your kids grow and all of those things. Basically, you'll have the time once you do this process. You'll have the time to do the important things with the important people and the money that you need to do those things, as opposed to right now where you're probably working 8 or 9 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week, and you essentially have a job. That brings us to the second thing, which is business owners are terrified of delegation. Nobody can do it like I can do it. That is absolutely 100% fundamentally false. It's extraordinarily rare for a business owner to be in a situation where they are truly the best person at doing the doing of their stuff. You can hire people who are better at it than you. You can hire people and train them to be better at it than you. That's vitally important. You can hire somebody to do the stuff that you do every day, to the doing of your business, the creating of the widgets or the delivering of the services. You can hire somebody to do that stuff and they can be better than you. This is not about ego. This is about what's best for you, your family, and your business. So if they're not better at it already, you can train them to be better at it. And that's really what you want is people who are better than you working for you. Why would they work for you? Because the doing of the business is not the business. The business of the business is the business. So you're having somebody to do to bake the bread or butcher the meat or create the candles, somebody who can do that better than you will allow you the freedom to run the business while they're doing the stuff. And that's the key to real entrepreneurial freedom is to be able to hire a team and delegate to that team. Now you got to hire the right people, you got to hire good people, etc. So there's a lot of work to do as far as that's concerned. But the most important foundation is that um, I want you to stop thinking of yourself as the best at what you do and start thinking of yourself as somebody who manages the people who are the best at what you do. It's another mindset shift. First step to doing that. Well, how can I hire them? I can barely pay my own bills. Or how can I hire them? I'm making just enough money to cover my own stuff. Well, the first way is to double your sales. And then when you double your sales, you also oftentimes more than double your profit because your static expenses stay pretty much the same. Your rent, your electric, your internet service provider, et cetera, oftentimes stays very static. So your profits will oftentimes more than double. So that's kind of exciting as well. Um, I want you to know that I come from, as I've mentioned, I come from small business. So as a small business owner, I know the feeling of the cell phone ringing at 7 or 8 o'clock at night and it being one of your employees and the pit in your stomach. I understand the feeling of getting a text message from your store or from your office or from your business on your day off and just feeling a knot. I understand how it feels to lay awake at night wondering if you're going to make payroll. Hopefully, you're not at that point, but even if you are, I understand that. I was there at one point. I understand those stressors. I understand it all because I've done all of it. And I'm telling you, in 12 months or less, that can all be gone forever and for good. Okay. So the incomplete formula, and I know I've talked about it a couple times, but I want to drive it home. Most business owners think that all they got to do is get more leads, run ads in more spaces, put more online ads, post more on social media, talk to more people, put out more flyers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, make more calls. It is the worst way to try and grow a business unless you're brand new. But if you're a year too old, it's the worst way to try and grow your business for any reasonably mature business. This always translates into frustration, failure, and finally, the acceptance of the idea that you just cannot possibly grow bigger right now. Um, hopefully, maybe one day I'll find a place where the ads really blow up. Hopefully, I'll find a way, I'll find a secret strategy that will let me run Google ads and get all kinds of business. Hopefully, I'll crack the code on how to make videos and get more business, or I'll find some newspaper that's delivering some amazing amount, or I'll find, okay, none of that matters. AI is the secret. This formula was developed before AI. It can be a wonderful tool. It's not necessary. What is necessary is to think exponentially. That's when everything changes. So thinking exponentially is not a normal way to think. We've been taught from a young age to think linearly. Clean your room, then you can have a snack. Finish your homework, then you can go out and play. You get your high school degree, and then you go into college. You get a job and work hard, and then you get promoted. Play the office politics game. You start a business, and then you grow the business slowly over 20 years, and then at the end of the 20 years, you sell the business, and you can be rich and free. That's the kind of stuff that we've been taught all of our lives. The truth is, success comes from doing things concurrently and getting exponential rewards. It does not come from doing things consecutively and getting linear results. So you've got to change your thinking. I keep saying it, but it's vitally important. You've got to change your thinking about how sales grow. Okay. And I want you to start thinking about the uh, I want you to start thinking about the cost of not changing your thinking because you see, look, when we've been taught something since the beginning, since the early childhood. I'm a coffee fanatic, by the way, so forgive me. I'm going to drink a little coffee while we're doing this. But when we've been taught something since early childhood, it becomes exceedingly difficult to just flip a switch and change those thoughts. But one of the most powerful ways to change a thought is something that Tony Robbins calls the Dickens pattern. So I want you to take a moment right now, and I want you to think about what it's costing you not to think exponentially about sales growth. I want you to think about what it's costing you to stay stuck in the current way that you're building a business. Time poverty. You don't have time for the people you love. You're constantly working, constantly running, constantly tired when you're not at work. When you're not at work, you're thinking about work. You're exhausted at work and at home. When you're at work, you're thinking about at home and what the kids are doing or what your spouse is doing or et cetera. Thinking about the people you love who you feel like you're neglecting. That's what's happening right now. Think about that going on to the future. Think about the burnout. Just tired of your business. You're just ready to go. Think about the frustration that comes with plateauing in your sales. You're probably there now. You started off, you got some sales, things were going good, and then things kind of plateaued out. And now you're kind of stuck there. Maybe small incremental changes up or down, but you kind of plateaued out a year or two ago or 5 years ago. Now, that's frustrating because you're thinking, well, when I first started, this was fun, and now it's a grind, and I'm not getting any new rewards. It's not fun anymore because I'm not building something, I'm not growing something. I'm just kind of stuck here. And I'm making too much money to get out, but I can't find a way to get it bigger. Now think about that going on year after year after year after year. Think about the someday syndrome. Hey, baby, someday we'll take the vacation. Someday we'll have the big house. Someday we'll get your dream car. Someday, someday, someday. The double your sales formula is a way to that break that pattern, destroy that future, and replace it with a much more exciting and powerful future for yourself. A place where you have the time, as I mentioned before, you have the time to do the important things with the important people and the money to do those things. Where you don't have a someday syndrome. Now, maybe you plan. I'm not saying that you wake up in the morning and say, hey, let's fly off to France and have breakfast. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you can make plans, you can take those dream vacations, you can buy that dream house, you can do the things that you can start checking off the things on the bucket list. Not someday, but today. You can drive the car that you want. You can send your kids to private college. You can make sure they're at the football games or the cheerleader competitions or the band presentations or whatever. That's what the double your sales formula can do for you. It's powerful. That's how powerful it is. Gary Halbert, who was a very famous, very well-known in the marketing world, in the direct marketing world, he was a copywriter. He used to say that the answer to all of life's problems is a good sales letter, meaning if you can have a letter that you can mail and make money from, and you can mail it again and make money from, and mail it again and make money from, having that money come in is, being able to leverage that asset to hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars a year in revenue changes everything about your life. Don't let anybody tell you that money's not important. I grew up in a trailer park, absolutely broke. And now I live in a gorgeous one of my homes is in a gorgeous neighborhood in Gainesville. I have another home here in Lake City in a nice neighborhood. Um, I promise you, money is important. It's not the most important, but it's kind of like, if you're riding a bike, the tires are important for the rest of the bike to work. Well, if you think of money as the tires, without the tires, the rest of the bike is useless. So, the double your sales formula is going to be a way for you to generate enough revenue so that you can put really good tires on that bike and then you can get on down the road of your life. It allows you to enjoy everything else about your life. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about creating a business that will make you wealthy, that will allow you to live life to the fullest. Okay. So let's get into the formula. First thing about the formula is it's based on direct marketing. Now, direct marketing, in case you don't know, if you're already familiar with it, great. But there's going to be people here who aren't. So I'm going to take a second and explain what the difference is between direct marketing and brand or image advertising, which is what you normally see on TV. Direct marketing is specifically asking somebody to take some action. Give me your email address, call in for a free report, buy something, etc. It's salesmanship in print. The point is to get that person to take some action. Uh, if you think about car dealers, so if you think about a Chevy commercial put on by Chevrolet, it is the car driving around, the Camaro driving around and a gorgeous girl in there with you or being real happy and young and looking good and etc. That's all image advertising. If you think about what the local Chevy dealer does, that's direct marketing. We have a sale, we have a thing, come in, we're doing an event, come to the lot, come to the dealership because we're going to sell you something, right? That's why they want you at the dealership. Come take a test drive, get a gift with a test drive, whatever. Those guys, the car dealers are doing direct marketing. The car manufacturers are doing image or brand advertising. We want to do direct marketing. We want to do something that is going to entice people to take some sort of action. You can build a brand through direct marketing, but you're not going to have the money to build a brand. You're not going to have the money or the time, unless you have $20 million you're willing to throw at it. You're not going to have the money or the time to build a brand, even in your local area, without the direct response aspect. So you can build a brand through direct response, but the important thing is to focus on direct response. The key to there's several keys to direct response advertising, but the one real basic thing that separates it from brand is the call to action, the CTA. You tell the person reading the ad, watching the video, listening to the thing on the radio, you tell them do X, Y, and Z. Call now to get your free. You make an offer and you have a call to action. There's an old saying by Zig Ziglar that timid salespeople have skinny kids. So the call to action, the CTA, is vitally important for direct marketing. Now, there's a lot of other aspects to it too, and we're going to get into to some important ones. But the call to action, the I want you to do this now, that's the key to direct marketing, and that's what I want you to start including in your marketing, an offer and a call to action, right? Um, so the other aspect of direct marketing is a three-legged stool. Now I'm going to explain it the way I like to use it. Truth is, you can start anywhere on the triangle. Okay, it's a direct marketing triangle. Think of it as a three-legged stool. You have to have all three legs. Now you can put whichever leg you want on first, but I'm going to tell you what I think is the best way for most business owners. It's the way that I focus on. I think it's the best way for most business owners to, pardon me, to develop their marketing. Now, the first thing is the market. You want to identify who your ideal customer is. Who's your perfect customer? Once you know who that perfect customer is, you want to then develop a message for that perfect customer. And then you want to figure out a media to reach that perfect customer. Those are the three legs: message, market, media. Find out who your perfect client is, find out who your perfect prospect is, develop a message that's going to entice them, and then figure out how to get to them. Now, media can be newspapers, it can be radio, it can be TV, it can be the internet. And of course, the internet spreads into 1,000 different media: Facebook, LinkedIn, Reddit ads, YouTube ads, banner advertising. Like there's a bazillion different ways to do that. But you find, and here's the important part. The message for your market is going to be ignored by everybody outside of your market. You want to finely tune that message so that it speaks specifically to your ideal prospect. You don't want to have any generalities, nothing in there that you're trying to catch other people. No, no, these are the people I want to talk to. This is the message for them, and it's only for them, and anybody who else who sees it will ignore it. You don't even want them responding. I know that's crazy for most business owners, because most business owners say, well, we run an ad, we want everybody to respond to the ad. You don't. Find out who your perfect, you develop who your perfect client is, your perfect prospect, your perfect customer, your perfect patient. Develop a message that will speak directly to them, and that will, you can even go so far as to alienate other people, but at the very least have no interest to anybody who is not that perfect person. And then figure out where you can run that message so that you can get to that perfect person. Your message, your market, or pardon me, your market, your message, your media. So that's where you start. That's how you start building the foundations of direct response. Now, when you adopt a direct response approach to your business, you'll be able to test and measure your marketing and sales efforts. Why is that so important? Because P.T. Barnum once said that he knew half of the money he spent marketing his circus was completely wasted, but he didn't know which half it was. So he didn't want to cut half of it out and have it be the half that was productive. So he just kept doing the whole thing, which means he was wasting half of his ad budget. But he was doing more than that. The half of the ad budget that was not productive was not only wasted money, but it was money that could be deployed into the other half, which was productive, to get much better results. So because you're using a direct response mechanism, you're going to be able to measure where your marketing is effective and where your marketing is not effective, so that you can redeploy. Instead of wasting money on ineffective marketing, you'll be able to redeploy those marketing dollars into effective marketing. Now, that's going to bring you more leads, which is part of the formula, but it's not the only focus of the formula. But more importantly, it's going to keep you from wasting money. You'll be able to either keep your ad budget the same and get better results. You'll be able to scale your ad budget back and get equivalent results, or you can even add more in and get much better results, because you can track where the phone calls are coming from. You can track where the customers are coming from. It's vitally important to make sure, again, this is a know your numbers thing. It's vitally important to know your numbers. Um, uh, so basically, when you do this the right way, when you start direct marketing the right way, and there's some things you have to do. You get some phone numbers so that when somebody calls in, you know what ad they came from. They ask for a particular department. They ask for a particular extension. There's ways of tracking this. There's a multiple different ways of tracking it. The point is that when you do start tracking it, you'll know what's working. You'll know what's not. You can optimize what's working, and you can cut the fat out of what's not. So this is the formula: leads times close rate, in parentheses, times, parentheses, ticket price plus upsell, in parentheses, times frequency equals sales. So I'm going to give you an example. It's a very basic example. It's not meant to be realistic. It's just meant to be very easy with the math. Over the course of a year, you have 100 leads come in. You close 20% of those leads. You have a ticket price of $100 with no upsells, and they do business with you one time a year. You have $2,000 in sales. Now, obviously, you can't run a business on $2,000 in sales, but again, this is a math example just to keep the numbers easy. You could easily make that 10,000 leads and say that you have $200,000 in sales, right? The point is not the numbers. The point is the math. 100 leads, 20% close rate, $100 sale, no upsells, one you do business with them one time a year, $2,000 in sales. Now, let's make a couple changes. Instead of 100 leads, let's imagine that you get 110 leads. That's not outrageous. Now, if you swap that to 200 leads, you would break your infrastructure. If you're handling 100 leads effectively, you can't double the lead flow coming in without breaking the infrastructure, and you're going to lose people. So let's just add 10 because with your current infrastructure, if you're handling 100, you'll be able to handle 110. Now, let's say you do a little sales training. Okay. Maybe you train a team, maybe you train yourself, whatever. Do a little sales training. You take the closing rate to 20 from 20 to 22%. Again, not an outrageous, incredible, amazing change. You're not going to go to 40%, but you can go to 22%. So you get 110 leads, you close 22% of them. You're going to raise your price a little bit. $10. So instead of $100, you're doing $110. That's not going to run anybody off. That's not going to change it. Nobody's going to not do business with you over a $10 extra on the sale. And then you add a $300 upsell. But that $300 upsell is only taken by one out of every 12 people. So you don't even really have to hard close them. You don't even really have to sell them. You just have to let them know it's there. Because one out of 12 people will take it just because it's there. If it makes any sense at all, if it's reasonable at all, they will take it just because it's there. One out of 12 people is programmed that way, actually more like one or two out of 10, but let's just say one out of 12. Keep the numbers simple. So that adds $25 to your average ticket, right? Because you have adds a $25 upsell to everybody because one in 12 accept a $300 upsell. And then you stay in contact with them and you get one out of three people to do business with you one more time over the course of the year. So now it's 1.3 times a year on average because you're getting one out of three people to do one more, they're going to do one more transaction with you over the course of the year. Now suddenly 110 leads, 22% close rate, $110, one upsell that one in 12 people take, and you get one out of every three people who come through to buy from you one more time over the course of the next 12 months. Suddenly your sales are $4,247.10. You went from $2,000 to over $4,000. You've more than doubled your sales, and you've done it without making any radical changes. Got a few extra leads, did a little training either yourself or for your sales team to bump the closing rate a little bit, added a couple dollars to the sales price. You included one upsell that you don't even have to sell. You just say, by the way, we have this option if you'd like, and one out of 12 people take it. And then you send a few emails, maybe a weekly email, or you have somebody give them a call, or in some way you stay in contact with those clients. And now one out of three comes and does one more transaction with you over the course of the year. Suddenly you've more than doubled your sales. That's the power of the formula. It doesn't take much. Now, of course, that all sounds great, but how do you do each step? So that's what we're going to talk to a little bit about today. We're going to talk about how you can start the process tomorrow. I'm going to go over all kinds of different ways that you can develop, that you can start making small improvements each step of the way so that you're going to have drastic exponential outcomes along the line of that formula. But you got to know your numbers, right? You can't plug the numbers in if you don't know your numbers, but it's all math. So, um, really, honestly, implementing the formula is very, very easy. It's just a matter of doing it. It's just a matter of getting the numbers that you have now, plugging them into the formula, and then strategizing about small improvements along the way, setting goals, and then getting the goals. It's very simple. It's not easy. It does take work. You're going to have two types of resistance while you're implementing this formula. One is internal resistance. You're just going to have to deal with that, honestly. One of the best ways to deal with it is just trust the process, do what you're supposed to do for a short time, and as you start to see results, the internal resistance will melt away. It's kind of like when you're losing weight. For me, I know, I've lost 100 pounds over the last few years. I still have another 70 to go or so. I was really, really fat. I'm still fat, but I was really fat at one point not too long ago. But what I find is that I lose weight in sprints. 30, 60, 90 days, I'll lose a bunch of weight, and then I pause. But then when I try to start losing weight again, what happens is that it never sticks. I never get fully into it unless I lose a significant amount of weight in a short period of time. So I lose 5, 6, 7 pounds over 5 days. Boom, I'm in. I'm locked in. I lose 1 pound over 5 days. Why am I even bothering with this? It's going to take forever. That's the kind of internal resistance that will melt away once you start seeing the results. You start seeing some results, you realize it's happening, and then it's going to be much easier to trust the process at that point. Um, the major thing will swap when you really emotionally in who you are accept that your number one job is to strategize how to increase revenue and profits. In other words, when you realize that your job is not doing your business, doing the thing, but you realize your job is selling the thing, marketing the thing, when that really takes hold, everything's going to change very, very rapidly. It will take hold. You just need to go through the process and start using the process and start using the formula and start strategizing about how to get your numbers where they are. But it will take hold. That switch will flick in your head. And when it does, and it really becomes like an emotional understanding instead of, right? So we have intellectual understanding, we have emotional understanding. Intellectual understanding is I shouldn't smoke cigarettes. I shouldn't drink. Emotional understanding is when we actually stop smoking or stop drinking, right? So intellectually, we know one thing, but then it really locks in when it becomes an emotional understanding. So that will happen. And when that understanding happens, when you flick that switch and it becomes an emotional understanding that my job is not to make widgets or provide a service, my job is to sell the widgets or sell the service, everything the changes will suddenly come so rapidly. In the meantime, trust the process, go through the process, go through the steps. You're going to find benefit in them, and it will create a situation where you will, where that process will swap. Doing creates belief, thinking creates intellectual understanding. Pardon me. As I said, I'm not a professional speaker, so I apologize if my throat gets a little raspy. It just is what it is. Now, uh, I want to warn you, implementing the formula, starting to work in the formula may mean a few early nights or pardon me, a few early mornings or a few late nights for the first few months. 90 to 180 days. Depends a lot on whether you know your numbers or not. So it could take you 2 weeks to get your numbers together, to look through your files, look through your business, look through your receipts, look through your receivables, look through your bank account, figure out how many clients are coming, figure out how many times the phone rings, right? Look through a phone bill, how many times does the phone ring? Record if you have a retail establishment, record how many people come in and out of your retail establishment. It can take you a while to get the underlying numbers. And then you have to plug them in, and then you make a plan, and then you're going to have to start implementing that plan. So it can be a few months of extra work. Um, that said, those few months of extra work will lead to, at the end, much less work on a daily basis, and more importantly, more money in your pocket and a far more valuable business. However, during that period of time where you are making the changes, where you are getting the underlying numbers, where you're planning, where you are implementing the changes, you are going to get external resistance to this process. Number one, you might get a little external resistance from your family, your spouse, etc. You're just going to have to explain, look, it's going to be a few months, but at the end of this process, it's going to be, things are going to be so much better. It's going to be more like you wanted. It's going to be more like you dreamed. This is where I've got to put a little bit of time in over the next few months, not an insane amount of time, not 100 extra hours a week, but I got to put in an hour or two every day. And, maybe 30 minutes some days, maybe, whatever. I've got to put a little extra time in. But at the end of this process, it's going to be, this is what's going to happen. So this is why it's worth it putting a little extra time in right now. Hopefully, most of the time, if these are people who you love, they will understand that, and they will understand that at the end, there's a huge payoff for them as well. The place you're going to get the toughest resistance to overcome is from your staff. If you have employees, they are going to hate this process. They have it in their head. This is how we do things around here. And when you come in and start saying we're going to do it differently, they are going to revolt. You may have to replace some of them. I know, I know. We're a family around here. Everybody's a family. We all love each other. We all do this. We work together. They'll do what I tell you to do. Maybe, maybe 1 in 100 business owners. That's the situation. 99 out of 100 business owners, which means most likely that's you, are going to find that your employees are going to revolt. You're going to have to fight with them. You're going to have to argue with them. You're going to have to retrain them. They're not going to want to do this stuff. They're going to think it's stupid. They're going to think it's ridiculous. They're going to wonder, why is he bothering with all this mess? Why is he doing all this stuff? It's all silly. You may have to replace a few of them. And that's a tough one when you're leading when you're leading a business and you have employees. But here's how you've got to look at it. The people who will not get in line with this process are taking food off of your table and money out of your bank account. That's what they're doing. They don't realize that's what they're doing, but that's what they're doing. So they've either got to get on board or they've got to go get on board another train and you'll find somebody else to replace them. That's how you have to approach this. And it doesn't matter if it's, your assistant who's been with you for 20 years or 15 years or 10 years, and, you know her family and you know her kids and you really think the world of her and she does a great job. If she won't get on the program, you're going to have to sit down and have an explanation, have a talk with her. This is what we're doing now. And either you get on the program, and I've had to have these talks with employees. They're no fun. This is what we're doing now. Either you get on the program, or maybe it's better if you go find somebody else to work for, and I'll find somebody else who will get on the program. Because this is not a whether you want to or not. This is what we're doing. If you want to come along, hop on the train. If you don't want to come along, that's fine. I'll give you a great reference. I'll make some phone calls and try and find another place for you to work. There's no hard feelings. But if you can't get on the program, then I'll need to find somebody else to get on the program, and you'll need to find somebody else to somewhere else to work. That's how you've got to approach it. That's where the major part of your resistance is going to come from, is from your employees. Don't let them do it. Don't let them sabotage don't let them sabotage your success. I promise you, if you start thinking about it like, when these people don't do what I tell them to do, then I'm literally taking money out of my pocket and throwing it in the fire. That's money that should be in my bank account that is not in my bank account. That's money that should be available for my children to go to private school. That's money that should be available to my children to go to college. That's money that should be available for my spouse and I to take a vacation. That's money that should be available for me to put in my retirement account. This person is hurting me and my family in a very real way. I promise you, if you keep reminding yourself of that, it'll be easier to make these. It's never easy, but it will be easier to make to make the demands of your employees and be willing to let them go if that's what you need to do. If you're not ready to do that, then honestly, this process might not be for you. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully you're 1 out of the 100. Chances are you're one of the 99 out of 100. And that's just the reality of doing this. If you don't have any employees now, you don't have to worry about that. You mostly have to worry about internal resistance. And as I said, when you follow the program, when you follow the formula, when you plug the numbers in and you start to see some results, that internal resistance will melt away relatively quickly. So in the meantime, just trust the process, go through the motions. You'll be better off for doing it, I promise you. Um, uh, Last thing I want to mention here. One of the cool things about doing this is that part of this process is being the best provider of what you do in your price range in the marketplace. So what I'm saying is, if you are an HVAC contractor, or if you are, let's say you're running a boutique, right? I use a lot of contracting examples because I come from that world, but let's say you're running a boutique and your average dress is $100 dress. Again, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air. And then there's a boutique across town where their average dress is $2,000. Well, nobody expects you to compete with the place that's selling $2,000 dresses as far as customer service and customer experience. But all of the places around your area that are selling $100 dresses, you can be the best place in that area, right? There might be somebody 100 miles away who is selling $100 dresses and they have a better experience. Well, learn from them, but you don't have to worry about them as far as judging whether you're the best in your marketplace. Your marketplace can be local, can also be national. But whatever the situation is, you want to be the best provider of whatever product or service you are doing, you are offering to your clients, customers, or patients. You want to be the best provider of that area in your price range in your marketplace. That's part of the process. So you may have to make some operational changes. You have to make some philosophical changes. That's fine. But honestly, I think we all want to be the best anyway. Entrepreneurs are not known for their for not being competitive. So I think it's fair to say that most people in this most people who own businesses want to be the best at what they do and in their areas. And there's lots of ways to do that. So I just wanted to point that out right quick before we move on with the actual elements, each individual element of the formula. So. All right, so now let's took a little break there to put some more coffee on. Like I said, I am a coffee fanatic. Um, let's talk about leads, shall we? Now, as I said before, focusing solely on leads is a huge mistake. However, neglecting leads is also a big mistake because they are in many ways lifeblood of your business. You can't get people to do business with you again if they haven't done business with you the first time. So, how are you going to improve your lead flow? How are you going to bump your lead flow by 10 or 15% in order to get that in order to double your sales? Um, First thing we're going to do is improve your marketing, right? So you gotta tighten up your copy. Um, you got to tighten your ads. You got to make them more appealing to the specific market you're running to. You want them different from the other ads in your market. You want them to highlight the benefits of working with you, highlight what somebody gets from working with you. You want to talk about, for example, I used a boutique earlier. If you're in a boutique, you don't want to talk about the dresses. You want to talk about the pride that you feel when you show up in a gorgeous dress. If you're in, if you're an auto supply store, you want to talk about how um, may want to talk about the pride of fixing your own car. That could be good. That might want to be in there, but you also want to discuss the availability of anything. We can get anything for you quickly and easily, and um, we can ensure that you're going to get it at the most aggressive pricing available. If you're in a contracting business, and I came from the contracting business, so I know we want to talk about reliability. We want to talk about how we have all of our insurances covered. We want to talk about how we take care of all your stuff while we're working at your house. You want to make sure that you're talking about the benefits somebody gets. Nobody wants a new dress. Nobody wants a new roof. Nobody wants an alternator. They want the they want ethereal things they get from that. And the old saying is nobody wants a drill, they want a hole in the wall. But even more so, nobody wants a hole in the wall, they want a picture hung. Right? So that's what we're trying to do. How is working with you going to make things easier for your prospect? How is it going to instill pride in them? How is it going to make other people envious of them? Make no mistake, that is a powerful one. How is it going to improve their social standing? How is it going to make them happier? How is it going to make their relationships better? Now, I'm not saying that you want to run a whole thing obvious, a whole ad obviously saying, you're going to feel better than your neighbors and your neighbor's going to be jealous of you. That's not something that you want to say. You don't want to be overt with that. But when you're tightening up your copy, you want to add these elements into it. The emotional elements. How's their life going to be easier? How are they going to be happier? How are they going to feel superior to other people? That's kind of a dark one, but it is an absolute driver of emotion. It's an absolute driver of sales and commerce. Just look around. How are they going to be a member of something bigger than themselves? So figure out how you can tighten up your copy and really find out what those emotional triggers are for your market, not for everybody, for your market, and then tighten up that message so that you're appealing specifically to those people. Now, how are you going to figure out how are you going to figure out um, we'll talk about how to find your target market in just a second. But once you have your target market, how are you going to figure out what they really want? Well, you can take a look at and figure out what kind of cars they drive, figure out what neighborhoods they live in, try and find out what magazines they read. Take a look at, call them and ask them, why did you work with me instead of somebody else? Why did you come by for me instead of somebody else? Right? So there are definitely ways to figure out what the emotional triggers are for those people. You're gonna have to do a little investigative work. Like I said, for the first 90 or 180 days, there might be some extra work. But in the long run, when your business is running like a money creating and a wealth creating machine for you, you're going to be infinitely better off. Um, One of the things that you might want to look into, as a matter of fact, almost for sure want to look into, is starting to do lead generation advertising. So I'm going to give you the most basic level of lead generation advertising. Here's the idea. When somebody decides they want to buy something, now this isn't true. We said auto supply store. If you're driving your car and your alternator goes out, you need to get a new alternator. And if you're not going to take it to mechanic, you're going to do it yourself. You're going to buy an alternator, right? So that's something different. But most processes, most of the time when people buy, they start off thinking that they might want something. And then they go through a buying cycle until they finally decide to to buy it. And that buying cycle is they start off every once in a while they think about it. They shut their car door and it doesn't quite it's a little heavy or it doesn't quite shut right or they go to put the window down and it doesn't quite go down so they got to hit the button a couple times or they're trying to get something on the radio or they walk up to the house and they see the paint job on the house and they just think that's looking a little faded, but it's not. It's just a passing thought. That's where the buying cycle starts. As they go through their life, and this can take hours or it can take years, as they go through their life, that thought comes more and more and more and more in their brain. And a lot of people will fall off in some areas. So they'll get on the buying cycle and they'll fall off the buying cycle. And then they'll get back on the buying cycle and they'll fall off the buying cycle, right? That happens too. But the buying cycle, they think about it, they're thinking about it more and 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 more until it's almost all they're thinking about. It's really annoying them. Then they're going to buy within a day or two. This is where most people advertise for. People who are here. Well, they're in research. They're looking. They're going to buy something. So they're out going. They're actively looking to figure out what exactly they want to buy and who they want to buy from. Because within a purchase category, there's a whole list of things. I mean, look, like I said, this might be a very, very, very short buying cycle. You get in the car to take a 2 hour drive and you think, you know what, I want to get a drink. Am I going to stop at this? Am I going to stop at the restaurant or am I going to stop at the gas station and get a Coke or am I going to run through Starbucks? Right? So that buying cycle is a matter of seconds. They get in the car, they shut it, they start driving, they think, let me hit Starbucks before I get on the road. Other buying cycles can take, like I said, sometimes they can take years. But when you do lead generation advertising, so by the way, it's important that you know your buying cycle. So what's the average time? What's the average buying cycle for your perfect client? How do you find that out? You call them and ask them, what prompted you to buy this? When did you start thinking about it? When was the first time you sell house paint? You paint houses. When was the first time you thought about maybe getting the house painted? I don't know, about a year ago, it occurred to me that it was looking a little rough. Okay, well, if you hear that a lot, you know that your clients, for your ideal clients, the buying cycle is about a year. Car dealers, there's also research, by the way, on a lot of this. If you want to do the research, you can do the research and get some generalities. Car dealerships, if you sell cars, if you own a car dealership, somebody comes in, buys a new car. Part of the exit interviews. By the way, how long have you been thinking about buying a new car? Right? When did the idea first occur to you that you might want to buy a new car? Some people might say, yesterday I blew a tire and I just finally said, I had never even thought about it. I liked the car, whatever. And then the alternator blew up and I just said, you know what? I'm fucking tired of this. I'm going to go buy a new car. Pardon my French. Other people might say, well, I've been kind of considering it for about a year, 2 years, about 6 months, whatever. Get an idea what the buying cycle is. It's good information to have. Anyway, somewhere between the first thought, hmm, and the I'm going to pull the trigger now, people are open to the idea of a lead generation advertising campaign. What's the lead generation advertising campaign? Well, the most basic one, there's all kinds of them, but the most basic one is a report, the buyer's guide for blah, 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 right? Don't buy don't hire a carpet cleaner until you read this report. Don't buy another car until you read this report. Don't go to a mechanic until you read this report. Don't have your house painted until you read this report, whatever. Now, people will buy, they will take that when I want to buy now because they're gathering information. But if it's something in their mind, they'll also buy it all along this axis. That means, so you get somebody here on the axis, right here is the buying cycle, and you get somebody at the buying cycle here, and they ask for your report. They might not be ready to buy for another 6 months, 5 months, 3 weeks, a year, whatever the buying cycle is. They might not be able to be ready to buy for a second, but now they have your report. And what can you do? While they're going through that buying cycle, you can create trust with them so that when they get here, they're no longer researching. They're no longer considering options. They just call you. You've hit them before any of your competition has hit them. It's a little more expensive on the front end, but it naturally, absolutely naturally increases your closing rate, and you can easily increase your price because you've spent weeks or days, weeks, months, years developing a trust between you and that prospect. And here's the really cool part. You ready? You can also speed up the buying cycle. So let's say it's a year buying cycle and you catch somebody 2 months into the buying cycle. Well, now they should have 10 more months. But because you're communicating with them regularly, what's that doing? It's making them think about that purchase more and more and more. So what you're doing is you're accelerating the buying. Because remember, the buying cycle is a process where the first idea, the first flicker of an idea hits them until it's the only thing they're thinking about and they're going to buy within 48 or 72 hours, right? Well, if you can remind them of that idea while they're going through the buying cycle, you can speed up the buying cycle. And when you speed up the buying cycle and build trust with those people, the chances of them going anywhere else fall drastically. They are going to buy from you. Now, obviously not 100% of them, but by and large, they are going to buy from you. Now, that means your, like I said, your closing rate can go up, your ticket price can go up. They're more likely to take upsells, et cetera, because they already trust you. So lead generation advertising, it's a little more advanced, but if you use it, it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. The only thing is that you're not going to run an ad and get a sale tomorrow. You're going to run an ad and then you're going to get a sale in a week, a month, a year, 6 months, whatever. So I just want you to keep that in mind. You got to fund these lead generation funnels, these lead generation marketing campaigns. You've got to fund them a little bit more, and it costs a little bit more, right? Because you have to generate the initial lead, and then you have to stay in contact with that lead, and there's an expense there too. So your funding, your cost of sale may go up some, but your profit per sale, your ticket price and your profit per sale and your upsells and your closing rate all go up. So that is when the closing rate goes up. So you generate 100 leads. Let's say just for ease, it costs you $100. You close 20% of them. You pay $100 to get 20 sales. That's $5 per sale. Well, if you pay $150, but you get 25% of them, I'd have to get my calculator out, but you see, because the closing rate goes up, the cost per sale goes down. So even if the cost per lead goes up, the cost per sale can go down. Plus, you're selling for more and they're more likely to take upsells. That's lead generation advertising in itself is a way of exponentially growing sales without doing any of the other stuff. Now you got to do all the other stuff too. I don't want to get you the idea, oh, good, I got what I need to go, I'm gone, I'm done. I don't want you to think that because there's a whole process involved. But pardon me, um, when you implement lead generation advertising in your process, it will absolutely will make the selling easier, make you sell more, allow you to sell at a higher price, and allow you to do more upsells. It's extraordinarily powerful. So you really, if you're not familiar with it, we can ask some questions at the end. But if you're not familiar with it, get familiar with it. Google lead generation advertising and read some stuff about it and figure out how to do it because it will drastically, radically change your business. Um, that goes along with the lead generation advertising, also goes along with creating a front end funnel. So there's the buy now ad, which is what we talked about first, tightening up your ads to get people to buy now, and then lead generation ads. But then you have to have a follow up funnel with it. So you can't send a report to somebody, a buyer's guide for whatever. You can't send that report to somebody and then never follow up with them because they're going to forget about it. You got to follow up with them on a regular basis. You can follow up with them with newsletters. You can follow up with them with emails. You can follow up with them with phone calls. That's a little more intrusive. You want to be careful with that. You can follow. There's all kinds of ways to follow up with them, but it's important that you do follow up with them. Create a entire campaign, what's all commonly referred to as a funnel, um, because you think about the funnel, you drop people in and they come out the bottom, right? So you want to create that. You want to create a process to stay in contact with them to build trust. So that's lead generation advertising. Multi-channel advertising. Can't tell you how many business owners have one or two or three ways they get business, right? They I got a lead generation service. I run some ads in the local newspaper. I do Facebook advertising. Okay, what else? Used to be Yellow Pages was a big one, not so much anymore. So uh, business owners will have one or two or three ways they get business. Word of mouth, and we run an ad in the local whatever, local magazine, and we do some Facebook advertising, and that's how we get business. Okay, fine, no problem. Why are we not running ads on Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, LinkedIn? Why are not retargeting? Why are we not doing banner ads? Why are we not doing email placements? Why are we not having people go out and knock doors if it's appropriate? Why are we not doing some direct mail? Don't downplay direct mail. It works in your city, it works in your town, it works in your industry. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, it absolutely works. Why not running some space ads and some periodicals? Why not using coupon books? All of these things are very viable. So there's an idea that I learned from, I forget the consultant, and I apologize, but he was a consultant, I think, to the chiropractic industry. But I was listening to him speak one time. Never been a chiropractor, never owned a chiropractic practice, but I was listening to a speak. By the way, those are two different things. You can own a chiropractic practice and not be a chiropractor. You can employ a chiropractor to do the stuff. Um, Good business if you know what you're doing in that business because you are not legally allowed to do this stuff, right? So remember what I said earlier, business owners get too tied up in the doing of the thing. Well, when you're legally barred from doing the thing, good business. Anyway, so um, this guy was talking to, it may have been a dentist, but it was either a dental practice. He was either a dental practice consultant or a chiropractic practice consultant. But somebody asked him, how do I get 100 clients a month? How can I get 100 patients a month? And he said, I don't have, what's the way? What's the way to get 100 patients a month? And the guy said, I don't know one way to get 100 patients a month, but I know 100 ways to get one patient a month. So you see 100 patients. So what you want, you always have to test new platforms. Direct mail, like I said, is incredibly hot. It's incredibly good. It works. Um, and it works even better now, arguably, because there's less in the mailbox. More and more people are doing online stuff. Less and less people are doing direct mail, and direct mail pulls sales. Um, Space ads and periodicals. Running something in a major newspaper is not nearly as powerful as it used to be. But finding small neighborhood newspapers, very good. Finding community magazines, very good. Finding if there's large subdivisions in your area, finding the newsletter that the subdivision mails out every month, very good. Those are all very good ways of using periodicals. And again, might only get you one or two clients, but every month, but as long as it's profitable, work it. Coupon books. So I love to tell the story. I knew this one. God, I forget her name now, unfortunately, but she ran this little coupon book in Central Florida, and she worked only in a very tight little area of a lower mid-size area. So population wise, that kind of thing. It was a very wealthy city. So it was Ocala, Florida, which is, believe it or not, very wealthy. There's a lot of horse activity there. A lot of people own horses. A lot of money in Ocala. But she worked in a very, like, two small areas of Ocala, which is not a thriving metropolis. It is a small town. It is a smaller, medium-sized town. I don't think it's quite small town anymore. I think they've grown past that, but they're certainly not larger in the medium side. They're in the medium category, but it's at the small end of the medium category as far as population and everything. And she worked only in two areas. She didn't even work the whole city or the whole town. She only worked two areas there. And I used to run ads for one of my businesses, one of my home services businesses in that coupon book. And I would get, I mean, it was very inexpensive. And I always got a client or two every month. And the client or two was always paid in spades. I mean, the ROI on this thing was incredible. Some months as much as 20 or $30 in profit for every dollar I spent on that coupon book. And I begged this lady to start moving to open up the coupon book into other areas. Please go, please, can we do more? Can we add some more stuff? She wouldn't do it. I asked her to buy the company. Can I buy the company? Because I wanted to expand it out. I wanted to buy the company, not because I wanted a coupon book company, but because I wanted to be able to put those coupon books other areas. They work so well. I just knew that if I just open up some other territories in this place, I could just do some wonderful things for my own home services business. And she wasn't interested in selling. I mean, this thing was incredible, and the ROI on it was off the chart. She was way undercharging. And I mean, you couldn't get me out of that coupon book. She's not there. She has since retired, but you couldn't get me out of that coupon book with a herd of Clydesdales. I'm telling you, I love that little coupon book. And if you could find 20 little coupon books like that, or 20 little areas where you can get a very high ROI and very inexpensive marketing, very high ROI on it, and and make it a very profitable thing. I mean, you only find those things by testing. You only find those things by searching them out, though. So why didn't, she didn't come to me and ask me about it. I went out and drove the neighborhoods and picked up all the coupon books and took every coupon book in the mail. And I found the publishers of those coupon books, and I would call them and say, how much is it and what do you do? And da, 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 da. And I tested them, and that one turned out incredible. The others didn't work well for me, but that one worked incredibly well. The economics on it was off the charts. But you only find that if you test. So you've got to constantly be testing new platforms. Figure on one new platform a month, even two new platforms a month. A new newspaper, a new newsletter, a new online advertising, a new ad network online. Figure out some way to always be testing one or two new platforms a month, because when you get to 10 or 15 or 20 platforms, yes, you've got to manage it. Yes, you've got to make sure that the numbers still work. But when you get to 10 or 15 or 20 platforms where you're pulling money in, running profitable ads every month, oh God, it's such a wonderful place to be. You suddenly don't need to worry about, pardon me, you suddenly don't need to worry about where your next job's coming from, where your next customer's coming from, where your next client patient's coming from. It just makes life so much easier. And it becomes a very easy way to pull in more leads, which is the first step, of course, of the formula is getting some extra leads. One warning: you don't want to add a massive amount of leads to your funnel, to your marketing campaign. You don't want to add a massive number of leads to your marketing campaigns very quickly. You want to add a small number incrementally. Now I know we have spent the whole webinar so far railing against incremental growth. But the problem is if you add 50% or 70% more leads, so you're doing 100 leads, suddenly you do 170, your systems that you have now, and you do have a system, even if you haven't developed it, it might be an organic system that just grew out of, running your business. But the system that you have now will not be able to handle that drastic increase. So you increase it 10%, you increase it 15%, you rework the system a little bit, and then you increase it a little more and increase it a little more, and then you rework the system and then a little bit more and a little bit more, so that when you do start getting 170, 200, 300 leads from the 100, now you're getting 300. You don't want to try and do that without reworking the system behind it. That's why this is such a powerful formula, is because you don't need to do that. So that will happen over years. Think 10%, 15% right now. That's what we're looking for in the lead category, an extra 10 or 15%. We can improve the quality of the leads. We can get, we can get people who are more apt to buy. We can do all of that stuff. But what we don't want to do is double the number of leads, even if you can, even if you tighten up your copy and you find that your ads are working much better, even if you add a couple of new platforms and you find once you get to that 10 or 15%, that 10 or 15% improvement, stop, fortify your process for handling the leads, hire a new person, retrain the person, hire somebody else to take some of the responsibilities off, whatever. Right. So what I mean by that is you have, Martha is your front desk person. She answers all the sales calls. She schedules all the appointments. She handles all the customer service. She has she gets all the calls from the salespeople. She handles all the vendors. She puts in the orders, right? So she does all that stuff. You don't want to double the number of leads that she's answering, because Martha's not going to be able to handle it and she's going to get angry. And then she's going to do a crappy job and your business is going to fall off. So what you do is you increase it a little bit so that Martha just feels like she's having, little busy day, but it's okay. And then you go to Martha and say, okay, look, Martha, we're getting more leads in. I'm going to hire somebody to answer the lead calls. I'm going to take that off your desk. Not because you're doing a wonderful job, not because you're not doing a great job, but because we're getting some more leads now. And I think it's important to have somebody who can take care of that so that you're not overloaded. I don't want you to be overloaded. I want you to still enjoy working here. But you're going to supervise that person, and I would like it if you would train them in how they, and what to say and how they say and how you do everything. And so you get the idea. You want to make it soft, or maybe you just have somebody else do the ordering, or have somebody else do something else. But you take some of those responsibilities off of the person answering the phone. Um, and because, like I said, you don't want to overload them, because then they stop doing a good job, and when they stop doing a good job, everything falls off. We're going to talk about receptionists and phone people and customer service people in just a second, by the way. So, anyway, off on a little tangent there, but make sure as you increase your lead flow, you do it a little bit and then readjust your system, and then a little bit and then readjust your system. You got the idea. So now, last part of leads is identifying your dream client. This is your perfect client. Now, if you've been in business for a year or two, you have some perfect clients. You have some perfect customers. So you go through your files, you go through your customers, you go through whatever, you do it by memory, whatever you got to do, you figure out who those perfect customers are. Now, the perfect customers in most businesses, now this is not every single business. I admit that there are some people who are in businesses where this might not be the case, but in a vast majority of cases, if you ask a business owner, who's your ideal client, they're going to describe them very broadly as somebody who spends a lot of money with me and doesn't cause me any problems, right? They write big checks, swipe big credit card receipts, and they're not bothering me or my staff all the time. We do our job, they're happy, everybody's happy. There may be some other things in there for you. That might be whatever that definition is for you, you need to decide. But that's very broadly across all industries with most of the business owners that I've ever worked with. That's what they want. Somebody who pays them a lot of money and doesn't cause them any problems. So you go through, you find your dream clients that you've worked with in the past. Now, hopefully you have 40, 50, 100 of them. Maybe you have two of them, right? Um, if you don't have any of them, then you're going to need to build in you're going to need to kind of build a mental model of what your dream customer looks like. Not just somebody who spends a lot of money, but first, if they spend a lot of money, they have a lot of money to spend. What are some of the things they like? You operate an equestrian shop. So this is somebody who has the money, owns horses, or blah blah blah. You get the idea. You have a painting company. Well, you don't want to paint little ramshackled huts. You want to paint really big, nice houses, or at least reasonably big, nice houses. So now you're going to get what neighborhoods those people live in. You own a boutique, so you get the idea. So you want to develop, if you don't have a list of perfect clients already, you want to develop what that perfect client might look like. Um, Think about what kind of job they have, what kind of business they own, et cetera, et cetera. Detail that. Hopefully you have some. If you have some, then it's right there for you. So you go through, find them, or develop, and then you figure out the similarities that those clients or customers or patients have. How are they alike, right? Map their home address if you have it. Is there a cluster? Do they all live in the same neighborhood, or do they all live within a certain number of miles in an area of town? Um, you know, you can get demographic information about them. If you have enough list companies, you can send your list over and they will profile. And I can't think of the name of the company right now, but if you go to dataaxlegenie.com, Data Axle Genie, it's a terrible name. I don't know why. It used to be called Sales Genie. Now they call it Data Axle Genie. It's a terrible name. But if you go to dataaxlegenie.com, the parent company of them is the list company who will do it. There's other companies as well, but this is one list company that will do this for you. You send over a list and they profile the list. They'll tell you what ages they are, whether they're married, whether they have kids in the home, what their income levels are. They might have some of their hobbies, all kinds of stuff. You can get all kinds of information from them. So you send that information over, you get that back. There's a charge for it, but it's not outrageous. But they are going to probably have some minimums. So they might do a small list for you, but they may say, well, you have to get at least, it's X number per entry. It's X number per person we're profiling, and there's a minimum of 200. So we'll do 50 for you, but you have to pay for 200 or whatever. I don't know that. Call them and find out some of the specifics about it. But you can find out all kinds of demographic information that way. If you have very few, 5, 6, 10, 15, you can get on social media and look at their social media accounts. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't mean in a creepy way where you're looking at everything that they do and trying to track where they are, but look at their Twitter, look at their Facebook, look at their if they have something on Reddit, see if they do anything on Reddit, et cetera, et cetera. So, if they have a YouTube account, you can sometimes see if they've made favorites, or sometimes they have lists that are public. You can see what kind of videos they're looking at. You can create a profile if you notice, okay, well, all of my perfect clients are extraordinarily conservative. Okay, that's going to affect your messaging. Now, I'm not saying that you should get political. But I am saying that you should allow that to affect your messaging slightly. If you find that they're all very liberal, that should affect your message. If you find they all drive a similar kind of car, right? They all drive German luxury cars, BMWs, Mercedes-Benz, etc. They all drive old restored American muscle cars. Okay, fine. They all read a certain type of magazine. They all have certain types of hobbies. They all go to a certain place for entertainment. They all, right? So these are all things that you can put into your messaging to attract the people who you want, your ideal clients. And remember, birds of a feather flock together. That's true. So put your figure out your demographic, figure out the similarities between the people, look at the demographics, look at the psychographics. If you have a list enough, or if you want to go through the expense, go ahead, and it's money well spent. Go ahead and get a demographic breakdown of all of your best clients. And they'll have breakdowns of the list too. 47% do this, 56% do that, 82% like this. Look at them on social media. Now, if you have 500 of them, you can't look at them all on social media, but you can pick a random 20 and look at social media, right? Get a feel for who you're talking to. We want to know everything that we can know about these people. We want to know their age, their income, kind of cars they like, magazines I mentioned earlier. We want to know what they do for fun, what do they consider entertainment? Do they like to travel? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We want to find everything we can find about these people. One of the wonderful things, now this is Facebook specifically, but I'm sure there's other platforms that do something similar. And I know in the list companies, you can do something similar. You can purchase lists from list companies for direct mail where you say, okay, here's a list of the 100 people who are my best clients. I want to buy 1,000 people who are like them. And you can buy a list like that. You can do a similar thing on Facebook where you say, here's 100 of my best clients. I want to advertise to, I think they call it mirror audiences, right? So you go into Facebook, you click, 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 you get the mirror audiences, and then your ad is going to show to people who are like those 100 ideal clients. Um, Again, you're gonna create your message. Remember, we talked about back here. We talked about tightening up your ads to appeal to your specific market. This is where we're tightening up the ads to appeal to the specific market. We've got to learn about the people who are perfect ideal clients, and then we write ads to appeal specifically to them. We train our salespeople. We're going to get that in a second, but we train our salespeople to specifically speak to them. We write our communication with them to specifically appeal to them, right? Because these are the perfect clients. These are the people who you want more and more and more of. Ideally, you want your business to only deal with those particular specific clients because they're the best clients. They spend the most money. Once again, I'm making an assumption, but they spend the most money. They don't give you any hassle. They don't give you any bother. These are the people who we want to focus on when we're doing our bit, when we're developing our ideal audience. So again, just to summarize, um, if you have a mature business already, go through and find everybody who falls within that ideal client category. Find out everything you can about those people. Go to a list company and get demographic and psychographic information. Go on social media and stalk. If you can't do all of them, then do a portion of them, right? Figure out everything that you can figure out about these people, and then find the commonalities, the similarities between them. Use that data to buy lists for direct mail. Use that data to mirror them for online advertising. And most importantly, adjust your messaging in your advertisements and in your communications, including sales communications, to speak directly to them. Okay. Hope that all makes sense. Now, we're going to talk about improving your closing rate. So that's the first item, leads. Now we're going to talk about closing rate. Most importantly is training when you start talking about improving your closing rate. If you have salespeople, you have to train them. I don't care if they're independently contracted. I don't care if I don't care if they get a draw or they're commission only. None of that matters to me. Training has to be mandatory. Now, if you have commission only salespeople, you don't pay them anything and you're not providing them with any leads, I still think you should provide them training, but even if you say no, but even if you say, well, they just go do their thing and I'll just, anybody can come sell for me. They get their own leads, they get their own everything. Okay, fine. I don't think it's a good way to run your business. I think it's going to lead to hassles and headache and problems and heartache for you. But if that's what you want to do, fine. But if you're providing them leads, even if they're commission only, if you're providing them leads, you have to train them. If they're salaried and commissioned and you're providing them leads, then you are, pardon me, don't mean to offend anybody, but you're a fool if you're not training your salespeople. You have to train your salespeople. Okay. Now, if you're the only salesperson, you need to train you. Now, there's all kinds of ways to train salespeople. If let's say you say, I'm not an expert salesperson, how am I going to train them? There's all kinds of resources, all kinds of training programs, there are plenty of people who are sales trainers out there who will provide you with training, either books, tapes, videos, CDs, online resources. There's plenty of information out there about how to train your salespeople or training that you can then provide for your salespeople. So, if that's your biggest problem is they're better than I am already at sales, then what I would say to you is go to Google and type, sales training for roofers, sales training for whatever. And there are a bazillion resources, no matter what business you're in, sales training with real estate agents, no matter what business you're in, no matter what you're doing, there's going to be a bazillion resources that you can look through and decide which one you want to take. And then you need to start doing sales training with them. How often is varies from business to business. I would say for most businesses, at least minimum once a week. And there's nothing wrong with the 30-minute sales. There's nothing wrong with the 30-minute sales meeting at the morning of every day with a little bit of training involved in that, or an hour sales meeting, half an hour training, half an hour logistics, and then off to the races. Nothing wrong with that at all. But you have to be training your salesperson. If you're not training them, then you might as well just throw money on the fire. Just take a stack of $100 bills and throw it in the fire, because that's exactly what you're doing every single day. Now, your phone people, your receptionist. Now, by phone people, I'm talking about anybody who answers the phone, anybody who has contact with prospective customers, current customers, etc. These people, whether you know it or not, and certainly they don't know it, but they play a sales and marketing role in your business. And you have got to treat them as sales and marketing people. Now, that doesn't mean that you pay them a commission, and that doesn't mean you tell them that they're a sales and marketing person. But whoever's answering your phones, particularly, especially the front end. So, Jim, Sarah, whoever is answering the phone, ring, thank you for calling XYZ. How can I help you? And that person says, I need to get a widget. I need to get my house fixed. I need to get my car fixed. I need to get whatever. That person is in a sales role. Their job is to set the appointment, get the information, assure them somebody will be back with them, like whatever the process is in your business. By the way, I'm not a fan of, okay, I'll have somebody call you back. I think that's a terrible way to do something. I'm personally a much better, I advocate if you can't live transfer for some reason or another, and some businesses you just can't. But if you can't live transfer for some reason or another, I'm a huge advocate of making an appointment. Not, okay, well, I'll have Tom call you back in a couple of hours. No, no. Okay, wonderful. Tom is available tomorrow at 8 o'clock, or he's available tomorrow at 4:30. Which would be good for you? That's a much stronger way to handle leads. But you see, that takes an alternative of choice close. You've got to influence the person to make the appointment. You understand? So there's sales and rapport building in what these people do. And if you're not training them to do it, you're losing money. Again, just throw money on the fire every single day. Burn it up. I mean, at least to keep you warm, because that's exactly what you're doing every single day if you're not training your phone people. Anybody who has contact, particularly first contact with any prospect or any customer, we'll get to customer service in just a moment, etc. You have to have them trained and have them. You don't want to tell them they're in a sales role, because that'll screw them all up. But you want to train them that this is the way that we answer the phones now. And this is how this is the process we use. This is the script we use. And then you want to record the calls. Absolutely, you want to record the calls, and you want to listen to them and make sure they're doing it. And if they're not doing it, then you give them a counseling. And if they're still not doing it, maybe another counseling. If they're still not doing it, you find somebody else who will do it. This is vitally important. I remember years ago, I was a dishwasher if you're old enough, you may remember a little diner restaurant called Wags. It's essentially a Denny's, but it was just a different brand, but it was essentially the same kind of place. Different decor and stuff, but same kind of place. So I was washing dishes at this Wags restaurant as a teenager, and this old woman named Olga was one of the waitresses, and I say old woman. I might not consider her so old these days. If I was me back then, I might not see her as nearly as old as I thought of her back then. But probably late 50s, early 60s, and she'd been waiting tables since before Methuselah was born, and she was out. Uh, I had done something. I don't even remember what I did, but I did something that made things. There may have been some water and some plates or something like salad plates when I put them on, and she grabbed a stack of them and it poured water out or something. It was not a major thing. It was not a tremendous mistake, but it was a mistake on my part. And man, Olga, and I mean, she was everything you would think of a woman named Olga, stern and nice enough, but stern and not warm. And man, she crawled in my tail end one way. I mean, she gave me hell about it. So I went to the manager and I was like, Olga can't, I don't, she's not my boss. And who does she think she is? And da, 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 da. And the manager said, you know, whatever, you're right. She should not have approached you like that about it. But let me ask you a question. The way she handled it was not great, but let me ask you a question. Who deals with our customers? I said, what? She goes, our customers are out there doing their things and eating, and who makes sure they have a good experience more than anybody else in the restaurant? I said, well, I guess the waitress or the waiter. He said, exactly. Olga's job is to make sure that our customers have a wonderful experience while they're eating here. That's the most important job in this restaurant. Your job is to support is to support the wait staff in ensuring that the customers have an excellent experience. And if you do something that interferes with that, then you have done something that interferes with the most important part of our business. Now, that was what he said. He didn't use those exact words. It's not like I had a tape recorder going, but that was what he told me. And as soon as he said it, even at 15, I understood it right away. I got it. Okay. My job is not to wash dishes. My job is to help the wait staff make sure that the customers have a great experience. Well, that was a little bit of training that manager gave me, and I was already had kind of a sales and marketing kind of thing going around in my head. So I kind of got that and I understood it. Um, but your receptionist, your phone person, the people answering your phone, the people having first contact, it's their job to ensure that your prospective customers, clients, or patients have an excellent experience at their first interaction with your business, practice, etc. They're not going to do that if you don't train them to do it. It's vitally important that you do this. It's vitally important that you strategize, think about, figure out a way to ensure that the prospective patient, client, etc., has an amazing experience that first time, and then train the people who are answering the phones, if it's somebody who's sitting at the desk and the first experience is when they walk in, whatever. Whoever has that first contact with the patient, with the client, with the prospective customer, you have got to train them to ensure that prospect has an excellent experience. And if you don't, it's going to show up in your closing rate. You're throwing money out of the window. So that's what I'm trying to say to you. Train your people, train that first contact. Now I say receptionist, but of course that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a receptionist. Could even be a manager, right? Whoever has that first contact with a prospect, you have got to train them to make sure that prospect has an incredible experience and do everything that you can do to lock that prospect down as much as possible. So if it's a phone call, if you can't live transfer it, you set an appointment. You don't just say somebody will call you back. If it's a walk-in, and you can't get them you can't get them to go right now, whatever, like you can't get them back in the back right now to do whatever the process is, or if you have a store and they come in and the greeter at the store, you've got to make sure that they do everything that they can do to help that prospect to get to the buying decision. So if you think of Walmart greeters, a greeter, you walk in Walmart says, "Welcome to Walmart." Okay, that's great. But what if they said, "Welcome to Walmart. Can I help you find anything today?" Well, yeah, actually, I'm looking for XYZ. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, that's an aisle two. That exact thing is an aisle 22, F22. Um, can I take you back, or can I get somebody to take you back, or it's right over there, and you go down here, here's a map to get there. Um, Now that might stop some wandering around, but it's also going to stop somebody not being able to find what they're looking for. Now, I'm assuming that you probably don't own a Walmart type store. If you do, that's fine, but I'm presuming you probably don't own a Walmart type store. Even if you have a retail store, it's more of a store that has salespeople in it, which means that now that first contact, you train them for the first contact. Then they walk around, and while they're walking the person to find what they want to find, they ask questions and they figure out what's going on, and then they make recommendations and upsells and et cetera, et cetera. But even if you don't have anything like that, even if you just have a business and somebody's calling and you're answering the phone, that person answering the phone is vitally important to turning that lead into a customer. And you have got to treat them like they're vitally important, and you've got to train them like they're vitally important. And by the way, not a bad idea to pay them like they're vitally important once they get the training down. I'm not saying you just go and say, "Hey, I'm giving you a 25% raise," and then now, but you get them trained, and then you pay them well because they are important, and it will be worth the time paying them. So, okay, enough about that. Now, customer service. Customer service people they've got to be salespeople. Now, you don't want to call them a salesperson, but they have got to be trained like salespeople for many of the same reasons why the first contact person has to be trained like a salesperson, but even more so because you have somebody who's calling probably upset about something, annoyed, upset, pissed off about something. And that customer service person has an opportunity with every phone call. They have an opportunity to take somebody who's upset and turn them into an absolute raving, rabid fan who will send more people your way absolutely free, who will buy from you again and again and again, or they have a chance of destroying that relationship. So you have got to train customer service people with rapport building. You've got to train them to ask questions. You've got to, pardon me, train them to find the underlying problem. You've got to empower them to solve those problems, right? I mean, I used to have in my roofing company, I used to tell. So I had a woman who would answer the phone, or she answered the phone, and she did all the customer service. She did all the first contact. Of course, she was trained to do all that stuff. But I used to tell her, listen, if there's a problem and you can solve it for $100, just solve it. She was empowered. Didn't matter. She could spend $100, whatever needed to be done. Even if it was, how about if we just send you $100 as an apology? Whatever had to be done, if it cost less than $100, she could just do it. She didn't need to bother me about it. She didn't need to talk to me about it. She needs to let me get back to you. She was empowered to take care of that problem instantly. And so that's what I'm saying with your customer service people. Train them so that they can build rapport. Train them so they can ask questions and dig deeper and go on a fact-finding mission. Empower them to make the solution, to create solutions that will make the customer happy, and reward them when they do a good job. Your closing rate will go up, your lead flow will go up almost automatically, and your frequency of purchases will go up as well. Okay, so um, now, uh, oh, I want to mention. Knowing who your ideal customer is and knowing the messaging will help with all of this as well. Help tremendously with all of this. If your first contact person, receptionist, who a greeter, whoever, if your customer service people, if they know the messaging that's going out to that these prospects or these customers want to hear, that's going to help immensely in this whole process, right? So first contact person is going to increase the closing rate. Customer service person is going to increase the closing rate and bring in more leads from referrals and increase the number of times that somebody will do business with you over the course of a set period of time because they love you. They're suspicious, upset, angry, frustrated, and you have an opportunity to turn them into a raving diehard fan. All right, so enough about those. Now, follow up. There's an old saying in the marketing business, you want to follow up until they buy or die. Now, I used to follow up in the roofing company. We used to follow up in the roofing company until somebody told us they bought a roof. So, I mean, look, it's pretty clear. If somebody comes in, if they're interested in something, if they're looking at something, if they're pricing something, etc., you just keep following up with them. Your competitors will not. I used to work with a guy. This is years ago. I was selling sunrooms, and I was the second best sunroom salesman. It's the first time I'd ever sold sunrooms. I sold all kinds of stuff, but I never sold sunrooms. There were three experienced sunroom salespeople. I was always number two in the room. Every single sales meeting, I was number two for the week, and it drove me out of my effing mind because I knew I'd been with the guy who was number one all the time. I'd been with him. I'd gone out with him. I'd sat with him. I knew that I was a better salesperson than he was. The secret was he followed up with everybody until they bought or they said, "Look, I already have the sunroom built." He would follow up relentlessly, and nobody else followed up. Nobody in that business followed up, including me. My fault, my mistake, learned my lesson. Follow up until they buy or die. It's okay. So in the contracting business, another story real quick. Uh, I'm sorry again. I'm not a professional speaker. I don't have this down. I haven't given this presentation 4,000 times. So bear with me because, like I said, this is about learning. It's about education. Um, in the contracting business, we had a period of time at one point where we just hadn't, for some reason, sales has fallen off. Well, I know why sales fell off. We had a very busy week or very, very rainy week or so. A lot of people called to get their roofs done because they had a leak. And then right after that, there was no leaks for like 2 weeks. So people were going, there was no rain for like 2 weeks. So people were calling to get estimates. We go out and give the estimate. They'd say, we'll follow up with you, which I mean, you prefer to get it signed right away. But when somebody's spending $10,000, $15,000 on a roof, sometimes they want to think about it a little bit, check the prices, etc. It's an understandable urge, impulse for somebody to do. But suddenly nobody was calling us back. So I was freaking out a little bit. I'm like, what's going on here? So I said to our then, our phone person, our office manager, I said, look, I want you to call everybody who we've been out to in the last 2 weeks who didn't buy from us. Call them all. And here's what I want you to say. And I wrote her a little script. It was something like, we're following up because we've received some offers from the manufacturer, some incentives from the manufacturer. If you can be a little flexible with some of the small details, I think we can sharpen the pencil on the estimate for you. Would it be okay if I had attorney, who was one of my salespeople, would it be okay if I had attorney stop by tomorrow afternoon, or would the next day, the next morning, or would tomorrow afternoon or Wednesday morning or whatever, the next morning work better? Um, when we got an appointment, so we got about 30% of the appointments. The closing rate was 90%. Let me say that again. About 30% of the people said, yeah, you can come out. 9 out of 10 of them, 27 sales. Out of 100 people, it's 27 sales. But 27% of those prospects closed. That's more than 1 in 4 closed. We didn't get out to see everybody. But from that moment on, they called everybody every week. They called everybody over the previous week and gave them that script. And when you're going out to see, when you have two or three salespeople going out to see two or three people every day, it doesn't take long to get to 100 no sales, right? Because we're closing some right away. But at some point, over the course of a few weeks, you get to 100 people, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. So think about those numbers. We had 100 people who didn't buy from us. We call them. Some people say they already bought the roof. Some people say they're not quite ready yet. Some people say they're still thinking about it. But about 30% of them say, yeah, you can come back out. Tomorrow'd be fine. Next day'd be fine, whatever. Out of that 30 appointments, we get about 27 sales. 27 roof sales, extra roof sales for doing nothing but following up. That's what, the course of 3 weeks, 4 weeks. That's big. Those are big, big numbers. $10,000 to $15,000 per sale. Those are big numbers, and numbers we would have almost for sure never have gotten if we didn't follow up with them. Follow up until they buy or die. You can add low cost, high perceived value to your bonuses for purchase. So gift with purchase is a well-known, well-respected, long time used, absolute way of closing more deals. It's pretty clear, right? You when you buy, you get this gift today. You get this bonus. There are loads of coupon books, so you might have to find one in your area, but there's loads of coupon books that have thousands of dollars in coupons for local businesses, restaurants, shops, etc. You can pick those up for like $20 or $50 each. And if you have a large enough ticket sale, it's worth $20 per sale or $50 per sale to give them a ticket book, to give them a coupon book. So, you're selling a car. Hey, listen, with every purchase, we're giving this coupon book. It has $4,000 in coupons to local businesses. You get it for free with a purchase. That costs you 20, 30 bucks, 40 bucks. Now, if you're selling, I understand if you're selling, if you're a restaurant, with a 40 or $50 transaction, that doesn't make much sense. But if you're at a higher transaction business, that makes all of the sense in the world. And there's other things that you can do for lower ticket items, other bonuses that you can put in there. You can a free drink when you come in or something like that. You can give internal bonuses where you give them a free appetizer. Come in for a date, bring this coupon, you get a free appetizer, that kind of thing. Um, Not every business wants to do that, or not every restaurant wants to do that. By the way, I understand fine dining and higher dining experiences don't want to have the get a free whatever, but there are other things you can do. By the way, in a business, it's one of the other companies I own is a four top for $7 where with four top for $7 where we do direct mail and get people to come in for their birthday, and we get four tops for restaurants for about $7 per four top. So what's that? It's 350. It's like a buck 75 per person to get them in the seat. It's a powerful, powerful marketing campaign. Not appropriate for every single business. Fine dining doesn't want to do that. Not appropriate for like pizza parlors and stuff. The point is you give it a little thought. You can figure out a way to add an incentive, add a gift with purchase, whether you're selling houses or whether you're selling, dinner. Doesn't matter. There's always a gift with purchase. There's travel vouchers. Again, these are higher end things, but there's places where you can buy travel vouchers where you get 2 days, 3 nights, et cetera, et cetera. A local jewelry store was just doing a campaign exactly like that. Spend this much, get 2 days and 3 nights. Spend this much, get 4 days, and what 2 days, 3 nights, and it went up to a whole week. So spend $10,000 or more and get a whole week luxury vacation, et cetera, et cetera. It absolutely works. Absolutely. I mean, that's an example from like 45 days ago that was happening in my local area here. Um, you can make deals with local businesses. This is a great one. So you go to let's just use an example. Translate this to your business. I can't cover every business, every industry, every contingency in a presentation like this. But let's say you run a roofing company. So you go to a landscaper and you say, "Hey, look, I'll give you $100. You let me give away $500 of landscaping services to my clients. And now you get $100 for it. Some of them aren't going to use it, so there's breakage. And the people who do use it, you're going to be able to go and you're going to be able to you get to go and get paid $100 to do a sales presentation. So you're going to give them $500 in work. But then you're also going to be able to upsell them and create a ongoing relationship with them, and et cetera, et cetera. A landscaper said no to that as an idiot, right? There's also, pardon me, you can do it the other way. So now instead of you saying, go give let me give your stuff away, you can go to people and say, hey, look, say you own a restaurant. Hey, look, with every purchase, how about if you give away, when somebody buys, how about if you give away a free dinner at my restaurant, free entree at my restaurant, right? Now, they're probably not going to pay you for that, but you get the person in, Now you get a chance to delight them. Say we got a coupon for a free entree from XYZ, whatever. Okay, great. So now that's a great way for you to go in, and you know that you have to delight that customer to get them back in the door next week, in a couple of weeks, couple times a month, whatever. You see? So you can make deals with other local businesses to give away low cost, high perceived value things. Okay, I just took another break. Um, ah, get some more coffee. So glad you're still with me. I told you when we started, we were going to start getting into the weeds. We were going to really describe exactly how to double your sales. Again, you've got to translate some of these ideas, but if you translate them, if you follow the process, use the information, I hope you're taking notes because we're covering a lot, but you use the information I'm giving you, it will translate into big numbers for you. So let's get to the next one, increasing your ticket price. Um, First way to increase your ticket price is just to raise prices. Add 10 or 15% to your current price. Most businesses are woefully underpriced. So in the roofing business, we would the roofing business, most business owners were selling roofs for between 275 and $300 per square. Roofing squares is 10 by 10. We would sell the same similar roofs. I mean, we used upgraded materials, but it wasn't anything. There was nothing special. There was nothing proprietary about what we used. The stuff that we used was available to every roofer, everywhere, etc. But we would sell our roofs at $400 per roofing square. So that's 33 to what, 37, 38% more than what everybody else was selling their roofs at. Why were we able to do that? Because most roofers were woefully underpriced. I've seen one, I know one company 10 times their price with no reduction in closing rate, no reduction in lead flow, no reduction in closes. I think they were at $2,500 or something for their service. They went to $25,000 for the service. Think about that for a second. With no reduction in closing rate, they still closed they got the same number of leads and closed the same number of people. What do you think that did? No change in the service. They just added a zero. Raising your prices a little bit, 5 to 10%, will not drive people off. Now, if you have salespeople, you're going to have to train them because they're going to get in their heads about it. And a salesperson will screw up a sale quick if they're in their heads about it. So make sure you train your salespeople, but bumping your price 5 or 10% is not going to drive anybody off. Period. End of story. Just raise your prices. Okay. It will make all of the difference in the world. Um, like I said, you got to train your salespeople to ask for more money, but we're talking about a little bit more money. So make sure that you get them used to asking for a little bit more money. Talk to them about it. Explain why you're raising the prices, etc. But absolutely, you want to raise the prices. Good, better, best options. Now, the best can be a red herring offer, and I'll tell you about that. I'll describe that in just a second. I did this for a client of mine in the home services business. Um, but what we, so the good, better, best pricing, most people, you can structure it so most people go for the better. So the good price is what you have now, a little bit extra service, not proportionately more expensive to deliver. So you're going to charge more for it and you're going to make a higher profit off of it, but the better and then the best option. So a client of mine in home services, what we did was we created a good, better, best option for them. We put the good at, let's say just for ease, because I don't remember all the exact numbers, it's not important. We put the good at $100. We put the better at $120 and we put the best at $350. Well, for the extra $20, you'd be a fool not to go for the better. But we didn't want people to go for the best. It was fine if they did, but nobody ever did. But the point of the best price was to make the better price look like an incredibly good deal. So here's your good, here's your better, here's the red herring, it's the best. It's a wonderful way to create a price structure. And almost every business can do that. Not every single business. I understand if you own a retail store, There's something on the shelf. It costs what it costs. There are other strategies that we would use as far as increasing ticket prices, like raising the prices. But this, in most businesses, particularly service businesses, is an incredibly powerful way of increasing your ticket price, and it actually kind of helps increase your closing rate as well. A lot of these things cross over, a lot of strategies cross over because now instead of the person thinking yes or no, they're thinking good. Which one do I want? One, two, or three? Do I want the good, better, or best? Do I want the silver, gold, or platinum? Do I want the gold, platinum, or titanium? You see what I mean? Do we want do we want the normal entrance, the VIP? Do we want normal, VIP, or elite? What level of product or service do I want? That's what they're thinking about. They're not thinking about, do I want to buy or not? So it reframes their thought process and it reframes the decision. So it can increase your closing rate and it absolutely can also increase your ticket price. Um, Good, better, best pricing. Okay, upsells. The upsells are a wonderful way of, there's a few different kinds of upsells, right? So one is a slack adjuster. That's what I described earlier when we were talking about the formula. Remember, we talked about the formula at the beginning of the presentation: 100 sales, 20% closing rate, $100. No upsell, and one time a year is $2,000 in revenue. 110, what was it? 110 leads by 22% closing rate with a $110 sale price and a $35 average upsell price, and 1.3 times a year was 4,200 and some change. Um, that's what a slack adjuster is. So what the slack adjuster is, what that is a very high priced, very high margin product or service that only a few people will buy. But those people, when they buy it, make a significant difference to your overall per ticket value. Does that make sense? So in the example I gave earlier, in the hypothetical, it was a $300 product that only 1 in 12 people bought. Now, what you'd really want to do with a slack adjuster is you want to make it a $5,000 product and 1 in 30 people buy it. But that's still that 1 in 30 people who buy it make a significant bump to your ticket price. That's a slack adjuster. One example of a slack adjuster historically is a hardware store that sold high-end recliners, right? So the hardware store, mostly men came into it. That has changed over the last 10 years or so, but at the time, mostly men were coming in and they put a five or $8,000 recliner in there, so a high margin on it, very high priced item. Somebody's coming in to get screws or nails or a hammer or something, and 1 out of 100 people would buy this $7,000 recliner. Made a huge difference to their overall ticket price. Added $70. 1 in 100 people buy it. It's a $7,000 product. It adds $70 per person that comes through your door to it at $70 per sale. Well, when your average sale is 10, 12, 30, 40, $50, suddenly you add $70 to it. You make a huge difference to your overall revenue in that business. Um, Gold platinum options. That's another take on the good, better, best pricing, right? So you have so the difference is now instead of saying, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, you want a good, better, or best option. They buy that. They say, well, let me get the better option. Okay, great. This way, you already made the sale, and then you give them an option. Hey, by the way, we have a gold version of it that does this, or we have a platinum version that does this. Um, you can add if you're selling widgets, then you can use it. Now, if you're in the retail, you can absolutely use the gold or platinum upsell. So we have a gold. Goodness gracious. I'm just batting 1,000 today, aren't I, with the phone? I actually did turn my phones off, so I apologize. But I'm just batting 1,000 today with my phones. Sorry about that, guys. Um, So you absolutely can use this in a retail. So you go in, somebody comes in, they buy something off your shelf. At checkout, they have an option to become a gold member or platinum member. And there's a list of benefits that they get as a gold member and a list of benefits they get as a platinum member. There's a more traditional upsell where it's just if they buy X, then you're going to add X, Y, or Z to that. You're going to add X, Y, or Z to it. So if they buy, um, it, a great example, if they're buying a dress, then you offer them some shoes. If they're or some hose. If they're buying pants, a suit, jacket, and pants, you offer them some shirts. If they're buying a car, you offer them the undercoating. If they're buying a roof, you offer them. You offer them a service package where you come out and service the roof over the next 5 years or whatever. You see, you just create a standard upsell. Take that standard upsell and make a gold and platinum option for that upsell. And now all of a sudden you have given somebody the option of taking the upsell or taking the upsell at a higher price. And of course, there'll need to be some more, you'll need to pad that some, you'll need to put some extras on there. But the idea is to create a package that's enticing, that has high perceived value, and that gives you a profit. So it's a very high perceived value, a lower cost for you to provide that value. So in the roof, in the option for the undercarriage on the car, that's just you're going to buy it or you're not going to buy it. But in the roofing business, if somebody buys a service pack, a service contract, so you come out and clean their roof and clean their gutters and blah 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 blah. What you're actually doing is you're having the client pay you to come out and inspect their roof, which you would do for free, but you're having the client pay you to come out and inspect the roof and point out problems and point out things that might need to be changed and point out areas where you can sell them more. You can sell them more services. Maybe hopefully, if they put a roof on, they're not going to need you to come out and put a roof on again for 20 years. But maybe there's some, maybe the gutters need to be redone. Maybe some of the fascia is getting bad for some reason. Maybe you offer painting or something. You're literally getting the opportunity to go out and inspect the house and figure out something else that you can sell that client. And the client is paying you for the privilege of having you come out and do that. Monthly membership options. Very powerful. Again, this is you can do this in any business. I knew a pizza place that had a monthly membership option. So you go in and you buy X. Service, product, doesn't matter. You offer them the opportunity to become a VIP member of your establishment, of your business. And that VIP membership has all of these things, and it's only $9 a month, $10 a month, $15 a month, $20 a month, whatever it is. And you stack all of these benefits on being a monthly member. Now, if you're a cosmetic dentist selling $50,000 cases, you probably don't want to worry about putting somebody on a monthly membership option for $20 a month for toothpaste, right? That's probably not something that's going to interest you. But if you're a restaurant or if you're selling lower ticket items, now you can put them on a monthly membership, and now you encourage people to come in more. You encourage them to do business with you more. You're getting money at the beginning of every month. Imagine waking up every month on the first and finding $10,000 or $15,000 dropped into your bank account. Boom, like this. Now, yeah, you gotta provide some services. There's some discounts. There's some coupons, et cetera, et cetera. You got to write a newsletter and send it to them. So there's things that there are fulfillment. There's fulfillment associated with that, but that makes all of the difference in the world, especially if you're doing lower end sales, if you're selling lower end products, if you're a retail store, and somebody can come in and or you wake up on the first of the month, there's $15,000 in your account. That makes huge differences to the entire economics of your business. It ties the customer in, it brings them in more often, it encourages them to buy more from you. That's going to substantially not only help your ticket price, your cash flow, it's also going to help the frequency with which they do business with you. It changes everything. Monthly membership options are an extraordinarily powerful way of generating a huge cash flow. It makes your business far more valuable, and when you decide it's time to sell, it makes it far more valuable, and uh, it makes it so much easier to operate your business when you're having cash flow, especially if you're in the lower ticket value kind of sales, hardware stores, retail stores of any kind, restaurants, dry cleaning, this kind of stuff, that monthly membership options can change everything for your business in a matter of months. If that's the only thing you did, it would be powerful. When combined with everything else we're talking about in this presentation, it will change everything about your business. Okay, now we want to talk about frequency multiplication, how to get people to come in and do business with you more often. Monthly membership options, I already mentioned, that will work like gangbusters. Another option is to just find new stuff for them to buy from you. Have something else to sell them and tell them that you have something else to sell them. Um, have specials, some kind, if you're a restaurant, some kind of special, special dish that's only available this month. If you're a store, some kind of new item that's only available this month that you can send an email out. You definitely want to start getting email addresses of everybody, and email addresses and phone numbers and home addresses of everybody, of all of your customers, as many of them as you can. Um, Here's the thing. Once somebody trusts you, they've come in and done business with you, they trust you, they want to do business with you again, you've done 90% of the work. Once they've had a good experience, you've done 90% of the work. You found somebody, you introduced them to your business, you created trust with your business, you delivered a wonderful experience for them in your business. Why would you want to go find somebody else? That's like 90% of the work of getting customer, of selling something to somebody. So why would you want to take the time, energy, effort, expense of going out and finding somebody else? You still want to, but why would you want to try and get more and more of those people in when it's not, when you have to do 10% of the work to get the same number of sales from people who've already done business with you? So find new things to sell them. You can find out what kind of product or service they want. Survey them. Survey your best client. Call your best customers. Call your best clients. Call the people who are about spending the most money with you and find out what they want, what they need, what they desire. You can send emails out. You can phone, you can call them. You can send emails to them. You can do surveys. Figure out what they want that's related to what you're doing already, and then find a way to give that to them. Go create something so that you find somebody who you can buy that product from and resell. Find a way to start doing that. So, for example, in the roofing business, we also opened a painting division. Somebody puts a new roof on their house, and now the roof looks beautiful, shiny, brand new, but the paint hasn't been updated in 5 years. It's a natural upsell. Find something else to sell them. It can be related to your business, or it can be not related to your business, particularly because you don't have to fulfill it. Now, keep that in mind, right? So a restaurant can go find another company to do yard maintenance. So if you have a restaurant and most of your customers are affluent and have relatively big yards, you can find a company to do yard maintenance, and you can sell yard maintenance services to your clients. Now, you're certainly not going to want to do it while they're sitting at the table, but there's no reason in the world you can't contact them again. You can't include that in a newsletter that you're sending out to them. You can't send them an email about it. You can't put something in the mail, direct mail to them about it. There's no reason in the world why you can't sell to it, not at the dinner table, but you can go back to them later after they trust you and they like you and sell them some other services, and you can have another company give that, provide those services. I will say, if you do that, you want to make sure that the company you're having provide the services are truly providing top-notch services. You don't want to have somebody doing that if they're providing mediocre services, etc. You want to make sure that anybody who you have doing that is providing top-notch services to your prospects, to your clients, to your customers. JV opportunities. Now, this is where you go out to another company and you offer. Now, there's all kinds of ways to do this, and it kind of dovetails on what I just said. One way is you can do an endorsed mailing and have those people buy from that company, and then that company gives you a percentage of the sales. You can just do a list swap where you market to their company. You have another company who sells a dissimilar item to the same people who you sell your stuff, your products or services to. So then you do a list swap where you market to their customers, they market to your customers, but there doesn't have to be any money changing hands between the businesses. You can sell their stuff to your clients and they pay you a percentage. You can sell your stuff to their clients and you pay them a percentage. So there's all kinds of ways to structure JV opportunities. If you're doing a monthly newsletter, which you should be anyway, especially with a membership option, you can um, you can just put an ad in the monthly newsletter, put together an ad form, run it for free, get paid based off results. Or you can ask them to pay you to put the ad in there. It's another way of increasing revenue. So there's all kinds of ways of leveraging your clients to get them to sell, to get them to buy from you over and over again. The last way is just resell them. So if you sell anything that's consumable, anything that, or you have like so anything that's consumable would be any kind of product that they use on a daily basis. Anything like a restaurant, they come in and eat and then they're done. If you have a store where you sell items and you can sell new related items. So let's say you have a shop where you sell candles and you can now create, and now you have, you develop a new source for a new kind of candle or a new source for something that goes along with candles, maybe a a thing to go over where they, where they put essential oils in it, and it kind of the candle then, it disperses the essential oils, all kinds of things. Anything that your client might be interested in, you can just sell them that. Now that of course dovetails to the first one, reselling them, or pardon me, finding new items to sell them. But you can also just sell them the same thing you sold them again. Whatever business you're in. Obviously, if you're in the car business, you're not going to do this. This might be a 5-year sales. So it might be 3 to 5 years before they want to buy another car from you. If you're in the roofing business, it'll be 20 years before they want to buy another car from you. So that, or buy another roof from you. So that might not work ideally in that business. But there's a bazillion businesses that sell things where people might want one, two, three, five of the same item. They might use the item, so they need to replace it, et cetera, et cetera. So just sell them again. Sell them a related item, sell them the same thing that you sold them before, sell them something similar to what you sold them before. Whatever you do, stay in contact with them, market to them, sell them. Well-run businesses get about 65% of their revenue from current clients, and it costs 5 to 25 times more to sell a new customer than it does to sell a current customer or client. So I want you to think about that for a second. A well-run business gets 65% of its revenue. If you're not actively trying to sell your current clients more stuff, how much revenue are you leaving on the table right now? And you're paying 5 to 25 times more to get a new lead as opposed to sell an existing lead. Remember, they already trust you. You already did the hard part. 90% of the work is done. Now you just got to reach out to them and sell them something else again. Now, like I said before, it's important that you take these categories, all of these categories, figure out how to apply them to your business. Not every single category will work for every single business, but every single business can find ways within everything we've just talked about to apply what I'm talking about. Does that make sense? So maybe reselling them a roof doesn't work, but reselling them other products or other home improvement stuff does work. Maybe for restaurants, giving them paying $50 for a coupon book for other businesses in the area might not work, but giving them a free drink or giving them a free entree or giving them something to entice them to come in does work. You've got to think about this a little bit and use these different areas. There are things in every single category that will work for every single business. There are parts of what we've talked about in all of the 5 categories we just talked about: leads, closing rate, ticket price, upsells, and frequency. There are things in every one of those categories that every single business can use. You might not be able to use every single thing in every category that we just talked about, but there's something here for everybody. And you figure out how to apply them, and you apply them to your business. Get your numbers together, make a plan, set some goals, make a plan to reach those goals, implement that plan, and you will double your sales in the next you will double your sales in the next 12 months. It's literally that easy. So you have everything that you need right now to double your sales. You know the entire formula. You have the basics of you have the basics, the fundamentals of every single category within that formula, all of the 5 steps. You have everything you need to double your sales right now. If you go do it, well, double your sales in the next 12 months. You have everything you need right now, but you have to go do it. You have to go implement. And that's the hardest part of this process is implementing the process. You may have some time constraints, everybody does. There may be some experience that you lack, so you've got to start doing this and gain experience. There may be some knowledge that you lack, so you got to go do a little studying, do a little reading, do a little research, gain some knowledge. And most of all, being accountable to the person staring at yourself in the mirror every morning is hard. Ask me how I know. It's difficult. So what I've done is I have put together a mastermind group, Double Your Sales in 12-month mastermind. It's a comprehensive program designed to guide you around the pitfalls, add decades of experience to your efforts, and help you get on track to your goals fast. Do you need the mastermind? No, you can do this yourself. You have everything you need to do this yourself. Will it help you reach your goals faster and with less effort and more reliably than you will be able to without it? Absolutely, 100%. You can bet your bottom dollar it will. In the Double Your Sales Mastermind, you're going to get a very clear roadmap to success, expert guidance, a peer community to help you stay on track day in and day out, week in and week out, month in and month out. Here's how it works. You get a half day onboarding consulting call with me. That's where we're going to sit down on the phone or on Zoom or whatever. We're going to sit down. I'm going to spend a couple hours digging into your business, asking you diagnostic questions, getting the information that I need in order to develop a plan. Then the next 2 hours, we're going to spend working together to develop a specific plan detail or tailored to your business so that you can double your sales in the next 12 months. That plan is the plan that you're going to work based on over the next 12 months, implementing each step of the way to get to that double your sale process, to get that double your sale number. You're going to get a monthly newsletter. So I write a newsletter every month. It's a double your sales in 12 months newsletter. And I'm going to I'm going to highlight different marketing techniques, different sales techniques, different processes. You're going to get information, real world information about what companies are doing right now, what's working right now every single month so that you can stay on track and continue building your momentum to get it to that to doubling your sales in the next 12 months. We're going to do a bi-weekly coaching call. Now there's 10 people in each cohort, only 10. So you're going to get a monthly coaching call, 2 of them bi-weekly, a group coaching call where one is I'm going to teach something. It's 4-hour call each. I'm going to teach something that you need that you need a better understanding of in order to get to where you want to get as far as doubling your sales. The second coaching call is going to be is going to be designed as a hot seat experience where each person gets a few minutes to describe a particular challenge they have in their business. And then the rest of everybody, including myself, are going to go around and shoot ideas at that person. What you're going to find is that a lot of business owners have already experienced the challenge that you're experiencing now. So you're going to get a very broad view of different ways that you can attack that problem so that over the next 30 days until the next call, you're going to be able to attack that challenge, overcome it, fix it, and then you can tell us on the next call what you did and how it's coming along and whether you've got it done yet or whether you've tested a few things or exactly what's happening. So you're going to have some accountability to your peer group, and you're going to be able to mastermind ideas and thoughts and suggestions on how to overcome the challenges that you're facing in your business every month. Every month, we're going to get on a phone call for a 20-minute one-on-one strategy session. be shocked at what we can get done in 20 minutes. This is not going to be a call where we get on and say, "Hey, how's it going? What's up? And how you doing? And how are the kids? And what's new?" That's not. We're going to get on. We're going to talk specifically about where you are, where you should be based on that month according to the plan, what's working, what's not working, adjustments we need to make, tweaks we need to make to the plan, and an implementation plan for the next 30 days until our next call. So you're going to know exactly what to do every month, week by week, day by day, month by month in order to reach your goal. The whole point of this is to double your sales, not to have buddies that you can hang out with. Although hopefully you will make friends with people. But while we're on the calls, while we're on the group coaching calls, and while we're on our one-on-one strategy sessions, we are going to specifically go after, it's going to be all business, all work. How do you get to where you need to get? How do you double your sales? You're going to get one 911 front of the line call. So a front of the line pass. So if you need to talk with me, you got to schedule something. You got to send an email. We get a schedule. Blah, 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 yada, you're going to get one opportunity every year where you can call, we send an email or send me a text and say, I have an emergency. I need to get in and I need to talk with you now. And within the next 24 hours during the business week. So if you call me Friday at 5 o'clock, it'll be Monday before you get the call, most likely. Maybe we'll do it over the weekend, but probably Monday. You're going to be able to get on the phone with me within 24 hours to deal with whatever emergency you're dealing with. Uh, Please keep it marketing and sales based because that's my expertise. If you're having a regulatory problem, call an attorney. If you're having a legal problem, call an attorney. But I will be able to, we'll get on the phone, we'll dig into what the problem is, and we'll create a solution. And you can do that within 24 hours. You get one time. You can do that over the course of the year if you need it. It's priceless when it happens. Okay. And last, you will get the option of taking a 1 day in-person consulting day with me. I don't do these very often anymore. I prefer to do virtual consulting, either over Zoom or on the phone or something of that nature. I will, however, open up some slots, 2 slots a month to members of each cohort where you can come down to Gainesville. You've got to get there. I'm not going to entertain you. We're not going to go hang out or have drinks. We're not going to go have dinner together, but we will spend 8 hours one-on-one in person, digging into your business and figuring out. Now, this is going to even without that, you're going to have the plan over the next 12 months, but we're going to dig into your business so that you can move beyond that 12-month area, or maybe figure out how to go, instead of doubling, maybe tripling or even quintupling your sales over the course of the 12 months if we do that day of consulting early. However, there's no guarantee tripling or quintupling your sales, but you can get one full in-person day with me, limited to 2 a month. So first come, first served. And it will, I promise you, one day with me will drastically change your business. There's no maybes about it. You will go away from that one day with a plan, with a powerful implementation plan to make drastic changes in your business, to radically increase the profitability, radically increase the sales, and build a much more stable, much more profitable, much more valuable business. Now, I'm doing something in this that nobody in this business does. So people in the coaching business and people who run masterminds, nobody ever offers a results guarantee. I am 100% guaranteeing you that your month over month, that your monthly sales over the same time at the end of the 12-month period, your monthly sales over the same month, 12 months before, will be double, or I will work with you one-on-one until that happens. Now, what does that mean? Why do I put it like that? Well, the point is to double your sales. But if we get to it at the end of the 12 months, because we will have been building throughout that time, you're not going to be you're not going to have your sale. Though next year's sales are not going to be double this year's sales. They will be substantially more, but they're not going to be double this year's sales because you're not going to see the results of your efforts in month one. This is a cumulative effect, right? So at month 12, you will have doubled your sales. But if I do that on a yearly basis, you got to wait 12 more months before you see if those sales end up doubled. Well, that's no good for you. You don't want to wait that long. And so what happens is we base it off monthly sales. So say December this year, in December, the 12th month is December of next year. Your sales in December of next year will be double your sales in December of this year. If it's not, I will work with you one-on-one until you hit that goal. My goal is for you to double your sales. And I guarantee that you will double your sales. Now you have to do your part. You have to show up on the calls. You have to do the work. You have to implement the plan. If I don't hear from you for 12 months and you call me and say, hey, I want to work one-on-one, no, that's not how this works. You have to do your part. But if you do your part, you show up to the calls, you show up to your strategy sessions, and that doesn't mean there's an emergency one day and you can't make a strategy session, so it's all goes to hell. That's not what I'm talking about. You show up on your calls reasonably. You show up on your strategy sessions. You do the work. You implement everything, and you don't double your sales, then I guarantee you that I will work with you one-on-one for free until you do double your sales. Now, just to give you a frame of reference, for businesses that are doing $5 million or more per year, if they want to do the double your sales consulting on a one-on-one basis, I charge $15,000 a month. Now, they get way more access to me than you're going to in this mastermind because they're paying for it. So, but I mean, they get multiple calls, they get unlimited reviews of their marketing material and suggestions and changes and etc. So we talk multiple times a month. I work with their team. I train their team on things. So I mean, this is a whole program. It's a much more in-depth program than the mastermind. But working one-on-one with them, I charge $15,000 a month. So when I say I'm going to work with you for free one-on-one until you double your sales, it's not a small promise. It's not a small thing. I do also offer a done for you service where we do double your sales in 12 months, but I do everything. So we strategize, we work on everything, and I implement everything. That's $19,000 a month plus 20% of the upside profit split. And that company has to agree upon a marketing budget that I control. So we're going to talk about copy, we're going to talk about strategy, we're going to work, but then I'm going to implement everything. That's more expensive, it's far more expensive. And they have to agree on a certain marketing budget that I'm going to control. And they've got to put that in either give me the authorization to access that marketing budget through POs or send the money over to me and allow me to spend it. And I account for how it's spent, etc. For people who run agencies who want to use the double your sales in 12-month framework for their clients, that's $250,000 a year. That includes training for their staff, consulting with their staff on particular clients, etc. I don't talk to their clients individually, but I do an in-depth program with helping them implement the framework to double the sales for their clients, even if they don't call it doubling their sales, but to implement exponential sales growth for their clients, which which makes them look like $1 million. So those are kind of the fees that I charge for outside of the mastermind group. So when I say I'm going to work with you one-on-one, it's not a small thing. It's a big, big deal. I love you. If we work together for a year, I want you to succeed. I'm guaranteeing that you're going to succeed, but I don't want to do this and then have to work with a bunch of people one-on-one when I should be getting paid a lot more money to work with people one-on-one. So my point here is that that this is not a process that I take lightly. It's not a guarantee that I take lightly. It is a guarantee that, from my side, uh, uh, demands that I spend a ton of effort to make sure that you do double your sales over the next 12 months. So that's the plan. That's what you're going to do, and I guarantee that you will do it. Everything you get the You get the half day onboarding call. That's a $4,000 value. The monthly physical newsletter. That's $540. You're going to get biweekly group coaching. That's about $10,800 in value. This is all based on my on what I charge for consulting, hourly consulting. One-on-one strategy session over the course of the year. That's a $5,000 value. The 911 front of the line pass that you're going to get when you need it. It's priceless. There's not a lot of value in it before you need it, but when you need it, it's priceless. And 1 day of consulting that if you decide you can take, that's a $12,000 value. The total value of the Double Your Sales in 12-month mastermind is $33,340 or more. Double Your Sales, the normal investment for the Double Your Sales mastermind is going to be $49.99. However, because this is a pilot program, I'm willing to do it for just $24.99. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. $24.99, and I guarantee that you're going to double your sales. So if you're currently doing $500,000 a year in sales, that's an extra $500,000 a year, even at a modest gross profit. Say it's a 20% gross profit. That's an extra $100,000 a year in profit. And I guarantee you're going to do it. If you're at $1 million, the numbers even get more exciting. Even if you're at $250,000 a year, $24.99, I guarantee you're going to double your price, double your sales, even at a modest 20% gross profit margin. That's $50,000 in extra profit into your business over the next $50,000 of extra profit into your business. Think about that for a second, and keep in mind, I guarantee it. Now, I'm doing this for a number of reasons. One of them is a little hokey, but it goes back to what I was saying. It's something I honestly feel that business owners are the atlases of the world. We are in for some tough times economically all over the world over the next few years. I know that small business owners can soften the tough times. Enough small business owners can even completely derail the tough times and keep the good times going. But if nothing else, it can soften the hard times for you, for your employees, for your community, for your family. So you can soften you can help fix some of these tough times in your local area. And if enough small business owners all over the world start doing the right thing and start finding the level of success that I know is available, we can actually turn the tough times into good times. So I want to do my part to help contribute to that. But I'm not doing it for purely altruistic reasons. There are two very practical, very specific, very what Ayn Rand would call self-enlightened reasons for me to do it. Number one is because I know that some of the people who go through the mastermind are going to work with me on a higher level. They're going to want to start doing one-on-one consulting at the $15,000 a month level. So if one person out of 100, one person out of 50 becomes a client that's worth $180,000 in fees to me a year, that makes it worth the time and effort for all the other clients. See, that's my slack adjuster, right? Because I know that very few, but a few will want to work with me on a one-on-one basis after they go through the 12-month mastermind. So that makes a lot of sense for me to put in the time and effort to do this in order to work for them, in order to get to that point with a very few number of people. The other one is, I told you earlier that I have a very small private equity fund that I run here in Florida. And I know that there is going to be probably less than want to work with me, but there will be a few who I want to work more closely with and who want to work on a partnership basis with me, which means that I can absorb a portion or buy into a portion of their business, put it in my private equity fund, and then work with them on that basis to radically increase sales and profitability and value. And that could mean big paydays. So some people want to be $180,000 a year clients. Some people will want to be partners, and that could turn into high six or even seven-figure valuations for my portion of their business, which means that, again, it's another Slack adjuster. So I actually have two Slack adjusters in this offer. See, I use what I tell you about. So, we put through 200 people through the mastermind over the course of a few years. A few of two or three of them become one-on-one clients, and one of them decides to work on a partner basis, and I agree. So we go through that whole process with a few people, and one of them we make a deal, and that person now. The portion of their business I own now turns into a high six-figure, seven-figure payday for me. So you can see that, yes, I want to help the world. Yes, I want to help entrepreneurs. Yes, I love entrepreneurs, but there's also very hard, very practical, very enlightened self-interest reason for me to make this offer. So that's why I'm doing it. So right now is a crucial decision point for you. Um, you can ignore everything that we just talked about over the last however long we've been on this call and go on about your life, and that's fine. You can commit to doing this yourself, and it's commendable. It's very hard. It's likely going to be very slow because there's some experience and some knowledge gaps you probably are missing, or maybe you're not. Maybe you can take this and roll out the formula and follow it and roll out the plan and do exactly this yourself, no problem at all. Most people are going to find it difficult, and it's going to be a slow process, and the accountability is going to be tough. Or you can grab your seat in the Double Your Sales in 12-month mastermind and exponentially speed up your journey to your financial goals. Those are really the only three choices you have in relation to this. Ignore it, do it yourself, or work with me and nine other people in order to exponentially speed up your journey and double your sales exponentially faster. The choice is yours. It's the $24.99. There's a 3-pay option if you prefer, and a 6-pay option if you prefer. There's also some outside financing available, so that if you take the outside financing, you get the $24.99 price. If you take the 3-pay or 6-pay, then it's a little more expensive. But you can make your own decision, go through the outside financing and spread the investment out over a longer period of time, or take a 3-pay or a 6-pay approach. It's up to you. Either way, you're going to lock in your seat. You're going to get an email with the you'll get an email with the place to schedule your 4-hour consultation, your 4-hour half-day onboarding consultation. And you'll get everything. Like I said, the 3-pay installments are $9.99. The 6-pay is $6.79. They're monthly installments. Whatever works best with you is fine for me. The important thing is that you get started and lock in your seat now, because, like I said, there's only 10 groups, 10 people per cohort. Go to doubleyoursalesin12months.com/MM for mastermind. Doubleyoursalesin12months.com/mastermind. Now, a couple questions. First, the refund policy. I apologize. I noticed this right before we got on the call, and the people who designed my slides, I'm going to jump in their tail a little bit, because there is no refund policy. There is a guarantee that you will double your sales, or I'll work with you until you do double your sales. So I apologize about that. But just to be clear, that's where we're at. You will double your sales in 12 months. If you don't double your sales in 12 months, I will work with you one-on-one until you do double your sales in 12 months. You are guaranteed to double your sales when you go through the Double Your Sales in 12 months mastermind, as long as you do the work. Is this right for your business? This is for established business owners, pre-revenue, or if you're just beginning, this can work for you. What I would say is, I don't want you to take your last $2,500 and join the mastermind and then have nothing to work with for your business. I want you to be able to, if you can do it comfortably, then we can definitely generate huge amounts of revenue for you very quickly. One of my businesses years ago, I had $1,000 in cash. That's all I had. It was October. I had 2 children and a pregnant wife. No other money. My wife didn't work. She was a stay-at-home mom. We were now divorced, but she was a stay-at-home mom at the time. And I wrote $1 million of business in 16 months. So I definitely can work with pre-revenue or very new businesses. The double your sales idea is, I mean, if your revenue right now is zero, then doubling that doesn't matter. But we can definitely generate a lot of business for you very quickly using this formula, starting from zero. If you'd like to talk a little bit more about it, you can go to help from Ev, HELPFROMEV.com, helpfromev.com, and schedule a 30-minute call with me, and we can discuss whether this might be right for you or not. But if it's your last 2,500, then I would say no. If you can do it comfortably and still operate your business and still have some money going on, then yes. If you're multi-level, if you're in a network marketing company, I'd say no, it's not for you. If you are already doing over $5 million in revenue, this is not for you. You're going to need some more intensive help. But if you are in that, say, 250,000 up to 4.5 million or so in revenue, then yes, this absolutely is for you. And I would encourage you to think very hard and long about whether you want to double those sales or not over the next 12 months. If you can't attend all the calls, everything is recorded and everything will be posted in a group area. However, if you don't attend any of the calls, then you're going to forfeit your guarantee. The point of the calls is to help get you on track and have you do the right things. Um, but if you have to miss a call occasionally for some reason, then an emergency comes up or there's something that you need to deal with, that's fine. You'll get access to all of the recordings. If you want more support, if you want more help, then we can certainly discuss that. There are some options outside of $15,000 a month, but we would have to discuss that at the time when you decided that you wanted to do something. How much time will this require? It will require all of the time that you can put into it. That could be an hour a day, or it could be 2 or 3 hours a day. What I would recommend is the more time you can put into it, the better off you are. So you can do it at your own pace. You can do it, but you need to implement what we're talking about if you want to get the results. So if you have an hour a day, then if you have 30 minutes a day and you got to start there, start wherever you've got to start. But it will get to the point where your more of your day will be taken up in driving sales and pushing marketing and sales than it will be in operating your business. And ultimately, ideally, we want to get the operations of the business running so smoothly that you only have to spend an hour or two a day doing that, and you can spend a vast majority of your time figuring out how to create more sales and more revenue for your company. How soon will I see results? That depends on you. You can see results very, very quickly. I mean, it's distinctly possible to see results within 30 or 60 days. But if you don't do anything for the first 30 or 60 days, or if you get caught in, what Zig Ziglar used to talk about, getting caught in the squat, where you keep planning on how to plan on how to start getting started, then you're not going to see results until you start getting started and doing things. So if you jump into it, get started right away, hit the ground running, you can see results in 30 or 60 days. You can start seeing results in 30 or 60 days. You're not going to double your sales. Maybe you will double your sales in 30 or 60 days. That'd be wonderful. But a lot of how quickly you see results is going to depend on how determined you are to get things done. And then, like I said, there's no refund policy. Once you're a member of the group, you're a member of the group. However, commit to the process. And if it doesn't work for you, I will make sure that it does work for you by working with you one-on-one until it does. So we have a couple of more questions that came up. Who is the guy in the Jesus haircut on the website? So somebody went to the W Sales in 12 months /MM website and they saw Brad. Brad is an incredible entrepreneur out of Georgia. He started with nothing years ago and built a commercial roofing business that he later sold for an amazing payday. He then created two other businesses that he had me come up and consult with him on. We created a whole new business model for one of them. He had me come up to Georgia. I really don't travel anymore, but at the time I was doing some traveling and I'm in Florida and Brad and I always got along. So I thought, what the hell, I'll go up there and have some time with him. So he paid me to come up and consult with him. So we spent a day. We completely redesigned one business. We made some substantial tweaks to another business that paid off for him handsomely. So yeah, Brad's an incredible guy, very savvy entrepreneur, very intelligent, and really knows what he's talking about. Um, I'm launching a business. Would this work for me? Well, we talked about that already. Yes, it can work for you, but don't get involved unless it's something that you can do comfortably. The numbers don't make sense. Three installments are 3,000, six installments are 4,000. Well, it's a little less than 3,000. I take over 4,000. But yes, you're right. I am encouraging people to take the one pay option, commit to it. There's outside financing sources, but for me as from my end, it makes more sense to have somebody take care of everything all at once and have it done. And then we don't have to worry about multiple payments or payments over 6 months or all that kind of stuff. You take care of it and then we get started and we go through and you're done. You don't have to worry about it. It makes sense from my part on a revenue and collections side. I don't have to worry about collecting money in the future. So yes, it definitely is more expensive if you do the three installments or the six installments. But that's because I want to encourage you to take the one pay installment. And if it's more comfortable for you, then use some of the financing options. And if that's not available to you for whatever reason, then you can do the three pay or the six pay. As I said, the important thing is to get started. Um, what else do we got? Why don't you like network marketing? I didn't say I didn't like network marketing. It's not for me, but I know a lot of people who made a lot of money in network marketing. I just don't think that this program, this mastermind program, works well with that. If you really are dedicated to having me work and help get results in network marketing, then I would encourage you to talk to your upline and at some point whether it's the direct upline or their upline or whatever, whoever the person is who has a large enough organization, have them reach out to me and we can see about developing a custom program for everybody in their organization. If that's something they want to do. But all of the network marketing companies have their own training that is customized to their people and to their business and to their business model. So I recommend that people use that training and not go outside. If you're going to do that, they're the experts in their business. Use their training and follow their plan. And I'm sure you can find success. So it's not that I don't like network marketing. It's not my thing, but it's not that I don't like it. I don't have any moral or ethical objections to it. I just think they have their own training, and this program is not designed for network marketers. Um, Anybody else have any questions? Uh, I just started a few months ago, and I'm doing about $12,000 a month in sales now. Would it make sense for me to get in? Yes, I think it would make a lot of sense for a number of reasons. Number one, you're still at the hustle and get more people stage of your business. So that's a wonderful stage. It's exciting, it's fun. You're seeing sales go up every month. Um, that said, if you do a little work now to establish some of the systems, marketing systems and marketing programs that it will make scaling much easier. So see, once you're at the 15, 20, 25, 30,000, $50,000 a month levels, trying to go back and now build everything becomes very complicated because you got to do your business. You got to do the things that are generating the 30, 40, $50,000 a month. But then you also have to build this. So if you build this while you scale, not only will it help you scale more quickly, it'll also make it much easier when you get to those levels. You won't be working 400 hours a day, try and beating your brains in trying to maintain that level of revenue while you're putting systems in place. So yes, it makes a lot of sense if you can comfortably. I mean, if you're doing $12,000 in sales a month and you're making $1,500 in sales, then number one, I'd say you don't have a great business model. But number two, I would say to you that I would push the profit a little bit higher before you start investing, unless, like I said, unless you are comfortably, unless your business is comfortably financed and this is part of the business plan and you're well capitalized and you can do it without causing a strain on yourself financially, then sure. but don't do it if it's going to cause a strain on yourself financially. Now, I will say if you're already at the $500,000 a year, 450, 500, $550,000 a year, and $2,500 is a strain financially, I would say to you that you probably need this. Now, if that's a situation you're in, people listening, you should probably stretch and do it because you're at a place where you should not be having trouble with a $2,500 investment. Now, that's not to shame you or to criticize you. It's just saying you have serious problems in your business that we can address over the next 12 months. So while we're doubling your sales, we can also get that profitability in where it needs to be and, and make it so so that's not a stress for you. Because if you're doing that much in sales, then a couple $1,000s, $2,500 should not be a stress. It should not be a stretch for you. Um, Somebody said they're doing close to $5 million a year in sales. They're not sure if this is right for them. I'd say go to helpfromev.com and we can have a conversation. You may need, because of the complexity of doubling, keep in mind, if you're at 5 million, we're not adding 500,000 to your sales. We're adding 5 million to your sales. You're also kind of you're also a well-established business. And you already have systems and a culture and this kind of thing in place. So changing some of that stuff can be a little more complicated. So go to helpfromev.com, schedule a time to talk, and we can chat and see if it's for you. Um, it may not be, we may need to talk about structuring a different custom program for you or getting you on my already established Double Your Sales one-on-one consulting program. Um, in the full day of consulting, you said you only do two a month, but there's 10 people in the cohort. Right. Yeah. So I'm only willing to guarantee two spots a month for that. Um, Honestly, I don't do in-person consulting much anymore. I am a real honest to goodness introvert. Being with people I don't know, and even though we will have a relationship, a professional relationship, but being with people I don't know who, like my close circle, my family and close friends, it does drain me. Um, and I need some solitude time in order to recharge my batteries. So I'm not the guy who does well with, if I was having 4 or 5 in-person consulting days a month, it would throw my entire month off. I don't do them very much anymore. I do everything I can do to make them so obscenely priced that nobody will want them. And if you want me to travel to you, unless you happen to be a friend, Brad was a friend of mine, but unless you happen to be a friend, or somebody who I'm extraordinarily friendly with, and you're located in a place where I really want to go, unless that happens to be the situation, trying to get me to travel to you is so ridiculously priced that I do everything that I can do to avoid that. Um, I much, much, much prefer to do virtual consulting on the computer, Zoom, telephone, etc. I can be in an area, one of my houses that I feel comfortable in. I can be in a spot that I enjoy being in, and we can take breaks now and again. I can get another cup of coffee or whatever, as opposed to being in a an outside location, kind of locked in a room with somebody who I don't really know, and it's yeah. So I do everything I can do not to do in-person consulting, either me traveling or somebody traveling, but I can be had. If somebody's willing to write a big enough check, I'm willing to accept it. But yeah, I only do the two in-person consulting. I'm only opening up 2 days per month for the cohort. Um, and yeah, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work for me emotionally and mentally. We can do the exact same thing on the one-on-one strategy sessions and the Zoom calls and the half-day consulting onboarding call. We can get the exact same results without me having to take the next day off and just veg out so that I can so that I can get back to work. I know that might sound silly, but as it was it Plato or Aristotle, one of the two, who said that the beginning of wisdom is to know thyself. So I know thyself. I try and know myself. What else? Pre-revenue. Okay. Yeah, you got a business idea, you're pre-revenue, you haven't even really established a business. Again, same thing I answered with the beginning businesses. If you can do it comfortably and you're well capitalized, fine. If you can't, don't do it. Um, you know, go through this. There'll be a replay, go through the replay, make lots of notes. I'd even be willing, if you go to helpfromev.com, I'd be really even willing to spend a half an hour with you to try and give you some ideas. But don't put yourself in a financially stressful situation by joining a mastermind, um, because better that you should do a little bit more work to educate yourself on, with all of the bazillions of free resources that are available online, and then from there, once you start generating some cash flow, then join a later cohort, assuming I'm still doing the mastermind groups. I don't know whether I will be or not. We will see. This is kind of a test. So, all right. I think that's all the quiet. Wait, one more is coming in. What? Hold on. I gotta try and figure out what they're saying here. Okay, yeah. Again, there's no refund, there's no money back guarantee. There is a guarantee that I will work with you one-on-one until you double your sales. So over the next 12 months, from month one to month 12 will be double the sales of the same month last year. So when we get to, so let's say December, we start December. So your December sales will be double, your December sales next year will be double your December sales this year. And if we don't get to that point, then I will work with you one-on-one until you do. That's how I guarantee. Yeah, look, if you don't, you, if you join this mastermind and we don't double your sales, the point is to double your sales. So if we don't get to double your sales, you do the work and I do the work, and we don't get to double your sales, then I'll work with you until you do double your sales. Now, the reason I make that guarantee is frankly, I'm not going to have to work with anybody after the mastermind. If they've done the work, they will double their sales. If they don't do the work, then, go back and do the work. But I mean, everything's recorded. You have lifetime access to everything. You can just log on, read, listen to your calls again, listen to the calls again, listen to the mastermind calls, listen to your one-on-ones, et cetera, et cetera. The information will be there. So if after 6 months you fall down, you don't do the next 6 months, well, you're not going to double your sales because you didn't do the work. But go back and start again and do the work, and you'll double your sales. The point of this is not to spend $2,500. The point is to double your sales. And that's what we're going to do. And I guarantee you, if you do the work, you will double your sales. So that's the best I can do. I hope everybody had a pleasant time. I know this was not really necessarily a fun thing. It was a work thing, but I hope it was educational. I'm sure it was productive if you took notes, and you will be getting the replay shortly. So thanks for showing up. Thanks for spending some time with me. And I look forward to working with you to get doubling your sales over the next 12 months. Have a great time. Great day. Bye.